Good evening, everyone. I'm Rick Walker with Maverick News and Maverick Multimedia. You're watching ongoing coverage of Freedom Convoy 2022. I'm here with my very handsome and cheerful co host.
Brendan Kennedy, the host of the Flow of Discourse podcast. Great to be here. How are you tonight, Rick?
I'm just fine, thanks. And lots of developments on the Convoy 2022 front tonight. Where do you think we should begin? The police chief resignation or the dismantling of some of these border points, or what do you think? Where's the starting point tonight?
Ooh. Well, I guess because it started yesterday, we should cover the pulling out of the Coutts Alberta border. I do have footage lined up for that.
Okay.
I'll just start with that.
So yeah, there's lots to talk about tonight. It seems like every day it just things just develop very quickly. This is a constant breaking news environment, and
So this is just a minute and 20-second clip of some of the organizers, and they're going to just give us a brief.
Okay, hang on
here.
a second here. Pull a different clip. The same clip,
one?
but pull the raw clip, not from that source.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll find it for you. It's okay.
Okay. So we have the Coutts Alberta border pulling out, and this is amid allegations that the police had arrested 11 people and confiscated a cache of weapons, long guns, and handguns.
You know what though, Brendan? Before we even get into that, let's do this. Let's go to some live footage right now in Ottawa, just to show people what is going on there tonight, because this thing is far from over, as we're about to show you. Okay? Far from over. So this is Ottawa tonight, right now, live. And so what's been going on today is Ottawa's police chief resigned. We have seen a pullout in Coutts, Alberta. This following the discovery, or some would say, well, how the guns within a pocket of people that were sort of within, or they're not really associated directly with, that weren't with the main group, but after that, discovery of some weapons, those guys left. The 402 blockade leading on Highway 402 leading to Sarnia, I guess that has broken up as well. The Windsor blockade at the Ambassador Bridge connecting Windsor, Detroit, Canada, USA, it remains down, cleared, and police are guarding the bridge. However, they do have their own blockades set up now on Huron Church Road, which is the main road leading up to the bridge, and that is causing all kinds of traffic problems. That's not from a trucker's blockade. That's from what the police there have been doing, and they're routing traffic in some strange way instead of having them go straight down the road, apparently, and that is causing some grief for a lot of the businesses along that major road, and that's a kind of a strange development. So still traffic disruptions there, but the bridge is open, but it's not business as usual. And as I say, police are guarding the Ambassador Bridge. And here in Ottawa, as you can see, even though Prime Minister Trudeau has invoked the Emergencies Act, which is essentially a declaration of war on the convoy, on the truckers, it's the use of what used to be the Warm Measures Act. These people are holding the line in Ottawa, and so far, no major enforcement has taken place yet. Now, there was a Police Services Board meeting in Ottawa today, and we do have some of that to share with you tonight, so you can sort of see the inner workings of what is going on with the Ottawa Police Service, where there is a brief discussion there about the resignation of the police chief, and the interim chief is there, and they were talking to him about finding some way to resolve this ongoing demonstration in the nation's capital tonight. Any comments on what we're seeing here tonight, Brendan? Because it's obvious the festival type atmosphere in downtown Ottawa continues.
Yeah, it is obvious that that's continuing. In the Police Services Board, they did make mention it is shrinking considerably. What that is going to look like over the next weekend, I am not sure, but I'm thinking that the Police Services Board is going to be pressuring the interim police chief to have this wrapped up by the weekend, just based off of some of the language that they were using. So I don't know how much longer it's going to last, but I think that they want to see like some kind of crackdown almost.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's pretty clear that something's going to happen very soon. And as you indicated, I agree. They'll try to do something within the next probably day or 2 or 3. They don't want this thing to continue into the weekend. And when we play some of the clips, some of the segments from the Ottawa Police Services Board meeting today, which was started at just after 3 p.m. this afternoon, went on for quite a while, so it's all fresh. And when we run some of that for you and you hear the comments, it's pretty clear the police service is under a lot of pressure, a lot of political pressure to get something done in here. And the real question on everyone's minds, though, is why did Police Chief Sloly resign? What was behind that? We really don't have much information. Nothing has really been released in terms of the reasoning behind that, but it's an extremely interesting development. We've heard a lot of tough talk from the police chief up to this point, and we have seen some efforts at forceful enforcement, but most of the officers on scene have been taking a light touch with some of the, have been taking a light touch with the protesters, with some exceptions. At certain points, police have become sort of aggressive down there in trying to enforce things. So
but there's only so much aggression they could throw at it, because if people aren't breaking the law down there, then what are you going to do?
Well, that's the thing, though. I mean, when we roll this footage from the Police Services Board, they'll tell you that it isn't lawful, that it is illegal. And if you listen to the language and the attitude and the strategy, when I'm listening to it, I think I've got big issues with everything that is kind of coming out of the Police Services Board there today. And when I listen to the way they talk,
they all talk like a bunch of disconnected champagne socialists, basically, like sitting from their ivory tower. Oh, these little people! How dare they?
That's
exactly. And bouncy castles.
That's right. I mean, you're exactly right. It's like they are completely disconnected from reality, and because of that, and because they aren't willing to actually engage in dialogue with the truckers, you can see why this is an ongoing problem. Let's cue up some of that footage right now, because this is like a big deal. Okay. And the attitude, I'll tell you, folks, you want to know what the problem is? listen to these people, like really listen to them, and listen to the snobbery. Okay? Just pick up on the snobbery, the elite contempt that they have for these working class truckers.
Possibility of technical difficulties. Should we receive any disruptions, I would ask that everyone remain.
This is the beginning of the meeting. This is the chair, Diane Deans.
Resume the meeting as soon as
She's
possible.
also a counselor.
We have set aside an hour for the public meeting. I would ask all panelists to do their best to be concise in either their questions or comments to ensure.
This is a woman
we
who
stay within
described the
timelines. I will
protest
now
as a
proceed with
nationwide
the agenda.
insurrection.
The police service has a late addition they wish to add to the board's consideration, and that is the approval of 2 special constable appointments for Carleton University. Since these appointments,
Let's just we'll queue it up a little further up here.
Until further notice.
She looks like the Canadian version of Nancy Pelosi.
To put in place a new command structure, and we'll be appointing a new chief.
Look, I try to be respectful, right? I want to be respectful, but these people, the language I heard coming out of this meeting today, these people have no respect for the truckers. They have no respect for working class people. These are local elite snobs. That's what they are. Now, I don't mean to paint them all with the same brush, but you listen to them. Listen to the contempt that they have when they start speaking.
The board's priority is to ensure a plan is put in place to bring about a peaceful end to the occupation of our city. As expeditiously as possible. The Integrated Command Center, which includes our RCMP and OPP partners, will continue to operate. The first item on the agenda today is a briefing on the enhanced Integrated Command Center. I've asked the service to provide an update specifically on this.
Let's just
in Ottawa has brought on unprecedented
chaos allowed to continue. While I appreciate that resource constraints have been a big limitation, both puzzling and frustrating to that the OPS has been unable to do more with the current resources, and I know resources have been a huge issue. Interim Chief Bell, I will turn this over to you to introduce, and once the presentation is over, we will go to questions from board members.
So he's the interim chief because the chief resigned today.
Thank you, Chair Deans. It's been a challenging day for the board. It's been a challenging day for the service, and I'd like to start by thanking Chief Sloly for his service to the Ottawa Police Service and to the community. The unlawful occupation has been a tremendous stress on our community, everyone that lives in Ottawa, and has brought on unprecedented challenges to both the police service and the city as a whole.
Okay, let's stop right there. The unlawful occupation. The judge who granted the injunction against the honking the other day, a few days ago, it was a 10-day injunction to prevent them from honking during the daytime hours or the nighttime hours. Okay, so they put an end to the honking. The judge referred to it and declared it a lawful protest, but they keep calling it unlawful. They're choosing their words carefully because they want to frame this in a way that they justify their enforcement, their crackdown that's coming, and the use of the special powers that have now been granted to them through the invocation of the Emergencies Act. Okay, so it's interesting. You know, what is illegal? What is lawful? Anyway, let's keep this thing rolling here. I have to get back to it. Sorry, folks. So, you know, Brendan, like, that's the question, right? What is lawful? What is illegal? What's a lawful protest?
Well, if the judge had deemed it was lawful, then, I mean, he in that very same injunction probably could have decreed that everybody has to be out of there by a certain time. And if not...
I know it's been tough. I know it continues to be tough, but I'm confident that we've reached a turning point. With the new resources that we've seen flowing in from our police.
So police, the main objective they have is to get this thing shut down, not public safety. Their primary goal, according to the previous chief, was to get this
ended. We now have the resources and partners to bring a safe end to this occupation. The Ottawa Police are ready, eager to do what is our part With new leadership and stability from our command team, I'm confident that we can end this occupation.
And they refer to it as an
continually
occupation.
working with the OPP and RCMP
Occupation, not
to
a
restore law
protest.
and order in the city of Ottawa.
It's a choice of words.
I'll now turn it over to Deputy Chief Trish Ferguson for an update on our current efforts.
Thank you, Interim Chief Bell. Good afternoon, Chair, members of the board. I want to thank you for the opportunity to provide you with an update on the demonstration and some salient details today. As has been the case following every weekend to date, the number of demonstrators and vehicles in the downtown core has dissipated. The number of demonstrators was less than 150 in the overnight hours, and the numbers of vehicles in the core has declined to approximately 360. This is down substantially from the beginning of the demonstration, where there were over 4,000 vehicles in the downtown core. And it is lower relative to all other periods of the demonstration as well. The overall footprint of the demonstration remains more or less the same, though a small number of trucks have been relocated from residential areas of the downtown core to Wellington Street in front of Parliament. This was an outcome of negotiations that occurred between the mayor and some of the demonstrators, and it is hoped that this outcome will help to limit negative impacts being faced by the downtown residents. As of this morning, there are 172 active criminal investigations. We have laid 33 charges and made 18 arrests. And with bylaws help, we have handed out nearly 3,000 tickets. We appreciate that the community wants us to increase our enforcement actions, though as we have said from the beginning, we are managing security and safety throughout. What this means is that we're not always in a position to lay a charge or ticket on an individual due to a specific security or safety concern at the time.
Okay, so they're giving us some numbers there, right, Brendan? But what are we really seeing? We're seeing the implementation of a strategy where, and it was clear from the beginning of their enforcement, that they were going to go down there and start ticketing everybody for every little thing they could throw at them. Tinted windows on cars that were too dark, mufflers that might be too loud on a car, checking every driver for proper registration. Do you have your license? If you don't have it, they're going to, handy, they're going to hit you with a ticket. And then they started to, steal the gasoline, try to prevent wood, confiscate firewood, any bylaw infraction that they could go after. So they were trying to, intimidate, I guess, just dissuade people from being down there, using every tool that they had in their toolbox. Okay, fair enough. That's their strategy. That's why you get that volume. But you've seen over the past 2 weeks and all the raw footage that we've been running, and you saw in the footage we just ran, that this has actually been completely peaceful, absolutely peaceful. People hugging, dancing, right?
Exactly.
And what the deputy chief here is doing right now, no issues with what she's doing. Her language, fine. Neutral, professional, no issues at all. And when I say that there's an elite snobbery here, it's not really coming so much from the police side in this case. It's coming from these police services board members. And when we get to some of these clips, I think you'll just be shocked at some of the things that they say.
Which is ongoing. So I have a few questions, and I hope you can enlighten me on that. So we are on the 19 days into this illegal occupation.
Illegal occupation.
Do you think the residents of Ottawa are currently being provided with adequate and effective police services?
Thank you for your question, Member Nerman. So from a legislative requirement or responsibility, absolutely. I do believe that we are providing adequate and effective policing. And I think based on the communication and partnerships we have with the OPP and the RCMP, we are increasing and improving our police service provision on a day-by-day basis. The geography of the occupation has shrunk over the last number of days.
So
concerned.
Intelligence failure on the
take you up here.
We've gotten
we tallied as of yesterday
of that, but what
out flyers to all the people who are protesting and blockading the bridge, and it laid out the penalties that were going to be meted out if the protesters did not leave. And that information, I think, did a good job of informing people and encouraging them to leave. Are we going to prepare something similar here? Because we know that a lot of the people who are occupying are getting information not necessarily from mainstream media. They don't know exactly if in fact...
so they keep referring to it as an occupation, the occupiers, the occupiers.
They don't know about
here,
what
pause,
that
pause
actually
it there
means.
for a sec.
They don't know about...
Yeah.
Oh, they don't necessarily get their information from the mainstream media like we do. They use something different. Oh, gee, it's not as credible. It's not as good. Blah, blah, blah. Like, come on. Like, that's how out of touch this person is.
And at a certain point in this meeting, and we can't play all of this for you. I'm just skimming through this for you, folks, to try and give you some of the main points to kind of illustrate what we're talking about. This thing went on for 2.5 hours. But that's right, Brendan. They did start to talk about misinformation. And, you know, you can see that there's this hard left wing political bent to this police services board. They're all on page with it, all on board with this attitude.
Acting Chief Bell and Deputy Trish Ferguson and the entire command team and the members, because I think we'll look back on this, and I've said to many people, you'll put this on your CV. All of us will put it on our CV. They will teach courses about this. They will talk about this for a very long time to come. And everybody is second guessing why somebody didn't do something. And what I can say for sure is it certainly isn't because I've never seen anybody who doesn't have their entire body geared towards get a resolution to this. We all really, really, really want to do that. And I think you've seen some of the questions from the board members. There's a saying for board members that our job is...
So they're going to put it on their resumes. And they're going to teach courses about how they handled this. Like, I don't know, man. Like, what, and how not to do shit? Is that what they're going to teach? How not to do it? Because that's what they'll end up teaching. All right?
Nose in and fingers out. We can ask questions, but we can't tell you what to do. And we also, we can't expect you, because all we can do is ask about operational matters, but we can't expect you to tell us certain things, and we can't direct you how to do them. So we do appreciate that, but that, as you've seen, that doesn't stop us from asking the questions, and I think it's helpful for the public to see, even though sometimes we know you're not going to be able to answer it. At least we do our best to try to dig away at it to see what we can find out. I did have one question, which I don't think is operational, but I just Deputy Chief Ferguson, you mentioned that there was 360, I think you mentioned, I'm not sure, I wrote it down, 360 vehicles and 150 people downtown currently. Did I get that wrong?
So the figure was 360 vehicles, and in the overnight hours, there were 150 people, protesters on the streets. So that's how we measure. We check to see how many people are on Parliament Hill, how many in the streets surrounding, and obviously that's a very fluid number, and then how many vehicles.
Because I was wondering if there were more vehicles than people, but I'm assuming then that there are actually 360 vehicles, perhaps with people, with or without people in them, and the overflow people are in the streets.
So 360 vehicles in the downtown area around Parliament Hill.
One thing I wanted to confirm,
you show it's still ongoing,
is just that when a vehicle, when a member of the convoy leaves, now I realize this is some question, some part of it you won't be able to answer, but I realize there's some negotiations that happen. But in general, when a convoy member leaves, they're not allowed to come back. Like we're not.
So this is just him, and that's right. If someone leaves, police have it blocked off so that they can't get another vehicle back in.
With all due respect, I have found the provisions of these services over the past 3 weeks to be wholly inadequate and ineffective. So, Interim Chief, on behalf of the residents of Ottawa, can you explain the inadequacy of the law enforcement efforts that we've seen during this siege?
Siege. Siege. That's a strong word. Okay, this is like
Inflammatory.
the siege of Ottawa with bouncy castles and barbecues.
They got their trebuchets out there too, just ready to go.
God help us if the country is ever actually invaded, because these people wouldn't have a clue what to do. All right. If a foreign entity, a foreign country decided to try to invade us, that's what the Emergencies Act is supposed to be for. If we get invaded, if someone goes to war with Canada, that's what it's for. We didn't even use it when 9/11, during 9/11. Wasn't even used then. But you bring some bouncy castles, barbecues, and some transport trucks to Ottawa, and these people fall apart. They don't have a clue how to deal with it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. If we are to be invaded or something, they'll be looking for their gender ideology to be acknowledged by the Russians or what have you.
Multiple discussions in this forum
Like
about, the challenges that we were seeing
to
in
these
this
people, it's an insurrection. Dude, hey, dude, it's a bunch of truckers who are pissed off, okay, over vaccine mandates. And in a few minutes, I'm going to tell you why the thing is ongoing and why you've been ineffective in dealing with it. It's very simple.
Most dangerously, we've seen fuel dumps full of gas, diesel, and propane canisters. People are being harassed in the streets. They can't go into stores. They're unable to.
They can't go in the stores because you people told them all to close their stores because you told them that all the truckers were dangerous white fascist Nazi terrorists. So you scared the hell out of a bunch of people and told them all to close up their shops.
I want to hear what the police say about this one.
Of normal life. Supply encampments remain in operation, and residents have now taken on the dangerous work of enforcement and resistance in their own hands.
That's a dangerous statement because he is trying to justify what we saw the other day when that idiot stole the flag from the 13-year-old girl. He is trying to justify anyone that goes down there and in a fit of anger or flies into a rage or yells at people or becomes involved in some physical altercation. He's trying to justify it. That's what that guy's doing right there. He's like, well, if anybody flies off the handle or there's any kind of confrontation down there, he's trying to justify it and make the truckers look bad. And he's just trying to make it look like any wingnut that goes down there and causes a problem. That's what that is.
Well, this is going to beg the question: how many of these people who have been arrested are from Ottawa itself? And that's something that I think will come out after the fact.
Yeah, we don't exactly have real numbers,
I don't
right?
see that effective and adequate policing here. We've heard from others, including the Minister of Public Safety and Emergency Preparedness, who is a former Toronto police chief, who has also said the lack of police action has been inexplicable. And I'm saying, as a member of the Police Services Board, that
there hasn't been a lack of police action. We've heard tough talk from the chief, the former chief, who stepped down today. But on the ground, police have actually been down there pretty much trying to do their job, which is just to keep people safe. That's their job. Because the solution to this is not a policing solution. Not really. The solution to this is a political solution. That's where the solution has to come from. But what these people want to do is bring the hammer down, crush them. That's what they want to do. That's all they're interested in. They just want to exert force. They think that's the solution. That's the problem. These guys are the problem.
And they're all the same people who said defund the police like a few months back.
Interim chief.
No, these guys, this is the Police Services Board, Brendan. These guys didn't say defund
I know,
the
but
police.
listen to them. They're all liberals. It's
Even if there
the same thing.
has been inadequate resources to address this crisis, why haven't there been the basic probative enforcement exercises to address the most blatant violations of the law? Maybe en masse, it's going to take time to deal with the situation. But there have been many situations.
These are people, though, that tolerated things like BLM demonstrations outside en masse when we were at the height of restrictions on even outdoor gatherings, but they were like, oh yeah, that's okay, no problem, which we saw across the country in different cities, people just like this. So you're quite right on that front, Brendan.
There's many instances where action could have been taken.
Double
So I'm just
standards being
wondering
employed
why weren't actions taken,
folks just like this?
As example, we see the corner of Rideau and Sussex. We see the War Memorial. Why haven't specific actions been taken in terms of those incidents?
So what I'll start with is there's already been committed to a review of what led up to the point that we're at today around this demonstration. We welcome that. What I can sit here and commit to you is a substantive plan forward, actions forward to end the demonstration within our city. We know that over the past number of weeks, several of, if not all of those safety concerns that you've identified have existed within our streets. They have been completely unacceptable. We have, from the early days, identified that we needed the resources to be able to access to safely stop these demonstrations in our city. The board, through Chair Deans, the council, through the mayor, have actually advocated for us to receive those resources. And in those resources, in turn, we've been able to bring in partners from the OPP and RCMP to work collaboratively together to build a substantive, definite plan that is properly and adequately resourced to ultimately end this occupation. We will continue to work towards that plan to end the occupation in our streets so that we see no more of those unsafe activities.
Well, with the new integrated coordination amongst agencies, if there has been an accelerated tempo of incoming resources.
Okay, so police, just reiterating again that, their goal is to bring it to an end. That's really what it's about.
Yeah, he pretty much sidestepped that question there, which, I mean, I don't blame him because this guy's just acting like judge, jury, and executioner.
I just don't have that right.
Need to present that relative.
So, first of all, thanks.
Let's see if we can get ahead here.
More fluid manner, then I will call a special meeting.
Better, more refined messages on the actions that are being taken. But what I can tell you is when we attend, and I think it's important under the framework that's been set up through the board, when we attend.
Police are in a tough position here because they are obviously under a lot of political pressure, right? And they not only have pressure now from these guys on this police services board who are not really supposed to be directing police and directing their actions, but now they have this increased, they have all this increased responsibility because they have more powers under the Emergencies Act, and it isn't clear how they're going to use those, but it really does militarize or weaponize police for Justin Trudeau's purposes.
Level more than once a week that could, satisfy that the board is doing the oversight that Ottawa wants us to do. Can you see something different or something more than that?
So I'm
and yes, they do need to strike a balance here, right, between the interests of the local residents and the right to the truckers to protest. But what these guys on the board have done is they're completely dismissing the truckers as being unlawful, illegal occupiers, when in fact they do have the right to be there. And we've had a court ruling on that, showing us that.
To provide that oversight role, and we are expected to. I don't want to create the false impression with the public that this board has more authority in this than we have. That has been a problem already with the public, who happen to believe that the board can direct these operations and should be directing these operations. And I can tell you, I have an inbox full of people giving me advice that under the Act, under the Police Services Act, we cannot do. So I want to caution the board not to create the impression at all with the public that ours is more than an oversight role. It's an oversight role. We have to make sure that we have the resources that they need. We have to make sure
That's
they
right.
have a plan.
That's
We
true.
have to ask those questions, but we cannot direct the chief. And I don't want to leave the impression with the public we can, because that is not the case. And I, like all of you, and like every single person I'm sure in the city, wants to see an expeditious and peaceful, safe end to this occupation where no one is harmed. We all want the same thing. I want it as much as anybody else, believe me. We have to put a structure in place that we believe will get this job done as expeditiously as possible. And I guess Chief Bell, we're all getting to our breaking point. Maybe I am too, but one of my frustrations has been when we expect action, we don't see it. It's a problem. We expected Coventry Road. We sort of got half the job done, and then there seemed to be a backing away. It took way too long in Confederation Park. This weekend, when we said that we were going to treat the protesters, more strongly than we have in the past, we had a chaotic carnival on Parliament Hill. I tell you, I wanted to go up there and pop that damn hot tub myself and unplug the bouncy castle. And I couldn't understand why we weren't doing just those things that were poking the fingers in the eye of our house, of Parliament, of our democracy, and of our city. And so, if there's some frustration spilling over, it's, okay, now we're getting the resources. This board is working very hard behind the scenes, and I want to assure the public that that is true, to put a new structure in place that will bring about a peaceful end to this illegal occupation as soon as possible. But I think what the public needs to hear today, what I as the chair of this board need to hear today, is that there is going to be stepped up enforcement. And
So that's the woman that's Diane Deans, the chair of this police services board. She's the one the other day who called it a nationwide insurrection. Okay.
Yeah, she's officially Canadian Nancy Pelosi.
She's a Karen, for sure.
Nancy Pelosi. Insurrection. Like without the eyebrows. Like if you put the eyebrows on her, then it's Nancy
She wanted
Pelosi.
to go down there and pull the plug on the hot tub and poke a hole in the bouncy castle.
Like,
well, what's stopping you? Jesus. But
somebody deputize her.
So it's an insurrection because they have bouncy castles and hot tubs, which really irritates her, and a carnival with a chaotic atmosphere. A carnival with a chaotic atmosphere. And for that, which she describes herself, Justin Trudeau had to invoke the Emergencies Act, or the former War Measures Act. He had to declare war on the truckers and the protesters. These guys have declared them all occupiers, okay? These are not like people from a foreign country who landed, on the shore of, British Columbia and climbed over the Rockies, made their way to Ottawa, and are sitting there with guns and creating a no-go zone for police. That's an occupation. When you have a foreign entity or a group declaring some area their territory where no one else can go. So they would say, we occupy this and we make all the rules here and you are not allowed, and no police. That's what we saw in Seattle. That's what we saw with all those riots in the United States and the chop zone and all of that crap, right? Where people got killed and there was an actual occupation where they declared their area a sovereign zone. That's not what these people have done.
I really have to say, this is probably the most boring group of people ever assembled in one spot.
Of this scale than the Ottawa Police Services have in the past is critical. It's crucial. It's important. I think it can make a difference.
But this lady here, she is completely whacked out. She is completely out of touch. She, you know what? She's prejudiced.
Yeah, big time.
That's what she is. She is, she's a class bigot because she has contempt for the working class. She views these truckers as a bunch of redneck racist hicks. And she's got no respect for them at all. None. Let me tell you, okay? There's a simple solution to this. Talk to them. Open and engage in dialogue. Maybe instead of trying to hammer people and coerce them into doing what you want them to do, which is to get the hell out of your town because you don't like them and you don't agree with their politics and you don't agree with their position on this pandemic, and that you don't agree with their position on mandates, because these people all want everybody locked down, and they want vaccine passports. They want the government to control every aspect of your life. They've got a different perspective, a different point of view, and they have no respect for the people who are sitting out there in front of Parliament, and they're telling them all to go home. I got news for you. A lot of these people have no homes to go home to because they've lost just about everything, and in some cases, everything. Some of these people, some of them are literally homeless. And these kind of people, and Justin Trudeau, and Doug Ford, the premier, and other premiers, they're the ones who did it to them. Because they crushed small businesses with their policies. And they continue to crush small people, middle-class people, independent business owners. They don't get it. And instead of going down to talk to them and engage in constructive, productive dialogue to try to bring a peaceful resolution to it that way, they're spending huge money by bringing in huge numbers of police reinforcements to try and bring it to a conclusion through force, coercion. You might just try talking to them. Now, these guys can't give the truckers what they want. That has to come from the Prime Minister. But that's the other thing these guys should be doing. They should be engaging in more dialogue with Justin Trudeau and the Liberal government and putting pressure on them to bring a political resolution to this. But that ultimately is the biggest problem here, is that Justin Trudeau has refused to even speak to the truckers. If he would just talk to them, I'm pretty sure that the whole thing could be resolved quickly, peacefully, and amicably. But when you won't even talk to people, Canadian citizens who pay taxes, who keep the wheels of the economy rolling and spinning, literally, when you won't even talk to them because you have contempt for them, and you treat them, instead of Canadian citizens, you treat them like terrorists, you've got a big friggin' problem. The problem, folks, you're looking at it right on the screen. That's where the problem is. The problem is not the truckers. The problem, that the truckers are the victims here. They're the ones, and you're the ones, everybody sitting at home, you are the ones who have suffered through all of this. And the middle class, the working class, the poor, the most vulnerable in our society, they're the ones who have suffered the most through all of this. Do you think these guys suffered very much through the pandemic, or do you think they were all sitting at home with their laptops through it all? The laptop class was well protected throughout the pandemic, and these guys want it all to continue. You think they got their paychecks? Do you think they're still working? Do you think they understand?
But you know what? They have not commented on why Peter Sloly, General Sloly, had resigned, but it's very clear that he was pressured by them to act on just about everything, but they were disappointed with his results. Like she said, she wanted to see the cops going down there, busting apart hot tubs and bouncy castles and that sort of thing, and they didn't. Yeah. They didn't see it, and so therefore he had to go. The pressure came to resign.
That's exactly right. I think you've hit the nail right on the head. They wanted them to go down there and take aggressive action.
And sometimes are assisting them in some of the illegal activities, like
illegal activities.
can you just explain to the residents of Ottawa why this is happening? And do those officers really realize the damage that they are doing to the reputation of the Ottawa Police Service in this city? I realize that we have all different views. We come from, we approach things differently. But when it comes to the police service, we expect them to uphold the rule of law and to protect and represent the citizens, not the illegal
Keep people
occupiers.
safe.
Do they
Illegal
understand
occupiers.
exactly what happened here and the long-term damage that's going to be done to the service because of this?
So I want to focus on the last part of that answer first. The vast, vast majority of the members of this police service are out there every single day trying to restore law and order to the community.
And that's what I said, and I agree. And that's why
I know you did, but I think it's very important that it cannot be understated. They are out there working with partners from across the country and across the province, other municipalities, to try and restore law and order in this city. They are as frustrated and they are as passionate about ending this as every member of this board is, as every member of this community is. I don't think we can ever lump everyone together and not say that the vast, vast majority of our membership is working day and night to try and end this in the best, most lawful, most expeditious way that they can.
Then go talk to them.
Those that are not,
Talk to them.
there is no place in this police service. I have said that before, and I will
Get
say
Justin
that
Trudeau
again.
to talk to them.
Supporting illegal demonstrators, illegal occupiers in our streets is not part of our core values. You have my commitment and my word as interim chief that
it's the nation's capital. If there's a place to protest, dude, that's where it is, on Parliament Hill. You take your grievances to the front doorstep of the Prime Minister's office when he won't listen. When the government won't listen to you, you have no choice as a citizen. You have the right to protest, and where else are you going to do it? You're going to do it at the Capitol, because that's where you do it. So is it an appropriate place, do you think, Brendan, for these people to be protesting?
Oh, absolutely. And then what she's pretty much accusing the police chief here of is that there's members of the police force colluding with the protesters, is what she's pretty much saying.
Yes.
I haven't seen any of that.
Because that lady doesn't care about public safety being the primary concern. She just wants them to go in there and bust heads, crack down, get rid of those bouncy castles.
the authorities that they have to intervene within the demonstrators and given the guidance and discretion to intervene in a lawful and safe manner. We have to.
And police did respond in that manner. We saw them go down there, and they did confiscate the bouncy castles in a brilliant strategic move, because that has to be like the main target, right? Get those bouncy castles out of there. They did. They went in and dismantled them. We showed you the video the other day. But then, of course, the next day, people brought another bouncy castle.
There has been no complacency. There has been no direction.
But now we know where the pressure to get rid of the bouncy castle came from. You're looking at it.
There has also been instructions given that they have to do it within the bounds of officer safety.
Okay. Now that I've gone this far, I'll just ask the other one to address the last rumor, and that is that several plans have been presented to the executive of the Ottawa Police Service. They were rejected, and we were told that because we did not have a plan, that's why we weren't offered the resources that we required earlier.
So what I can let you know.
I don't know that we should be dealing in rumors in this.
Just a yes or no, Chair, because it is out there and there is some concern about
what I
that.
can let you know is we have absolute support of our partners to develop and staff a plan to ultimately bring an end to the occupation.
Occupation.
Work on that.
It's not a protest, it's an occupation.
Staffing and resourcing to execute that plan.
Thank you, Acting Chief. Thank you.
Thank you. I know we want to wrap up soon. I have a couple more questions, and I see Member King does, and then I think we're going to hold it there. Interim Chief Bell, you said in response to a question earlier that once a vehicle has left, it's not allowed to return. I have received several messages from members of the community saying that is not factually correct. So I'm wondering if you can at least assure us that going forward, no vehicle that leaves will be allowed to return.
We are working every day, Chair Deans, to shrink the footprint. I'm not sure of the information you're receiving or the specific accounts, but I can tell you that we are actively have resources that are deployed. It takes several resources to keep the footprint where it is, and there is no in and out privileges that we're allowing in the demonstration.
Okay, and my last question is, Interim Chief Bell, would you agree with me that there has been a colossal failure of intelligence and that we need to take immediate steps to make sure that intelligence gathering is better, not just for this, but going forward to the future?
So no, I wouldn't agree that it's been a colossal failure of intelligence. We have received intelligence ongoing through this. We have had our intelligence networks continuing to gather information. Where I will agree with you is in this specific area, which is an area that has been unknown to us previously to this, we actually have to look at alternative and better ways to collect better, more timely intelligence information to be able to respond to what's occurring. We have developed some of that capacity in the last number of weeks as this has unfolded in our city, but we did have an intelligence network that was established. We did receive some intelligence on what was occurring or what could occur, and those steps have been taken and improved and enhanced on as we've progressed through this.
Okay, thank you. Member King, last question to you.
And I'm just going to be brief. It's not really a question. I just wanted to underline and understate what you had noted, Chair, that the Police Services Board obviously does not direct police tactics or operations. We live in a democracy, but we have specific institutions, and we expect the police to police. We have institutions, and we know that the police service under the Police Services Act is empowered with resources, the powers, and the duty to enforce the law. So what we've heard very clearly from residents is that they want, and we collectively want that task undertaken so that we can end this illegal occupation forthwith. And the last item I'll leave you with is I did submit questions over the weekend of operational nature. I'll be submitting more questions of an operational nature after this meeting, and it will be my expectation to have those questions answered in a timely fashion. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you. And Member Nerman, we only have a few more minutes for this meeting. Is this urgent? Because I was cutting this off.
Just a very brief comment. And again, I am coming to Interim Chief Bell on his adequate and effective police services. What my experience is, I am 60 years, that whenever the community, members of the community, they come on the road and they try to enforce the law with no respect or no faith in the police, that is the end of it. So instead, in spite of that, this weekend we saw how on Elgin Riverside, they were stopping the protesters to go to the downtown core. And in spite of that, if the words is coming that police was providing or is providing adequate and effective services, I won't take that. But thank you. That was my comment.
Okay. So received on the update? Received?
Received.
Okay, so that's enough of that.
I just want to talk about one thing that I missed.
Yeah.
So when it went to the deputy police chief in the beginning, when she was delivering her presentation there, she did actively admit she has still not received any directions in what to do regarding the state of emergency that was issued by Trudeau. So I thought that was a very interesting point, and it was worthy of speaking about. There was also a hot mic moment about very early on in it, where he said, "Oh, we had received an email correspondence from the president of
Brendan."
Hey,
Oh,
Look who's joining us. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you,
hello.
but I just got so excited when Carla popped on.
How's
just
it
going to
going,
make a
guys?
point here. So there was a hot mic moment where the police board members said they received an email from the president of the African Canadian Association of Ottawa, and they had said that they received an email saying that it was horrendous that Police Chief Sloly was basically resigned. So there's something going on with that, and it was very hush hush. So that was weird.
Yeah.
Hi, Carla.
I would also like to know why he resigned. I think there's a deeper meaning than is being exposed, obviously, right?
Yeah, well, there was some talk about him being abusive or something, accusations of that, right? But I don't know if I buy that. That was a CBC story, I think. And, there's so much politics, weaving its way through this entire thing that it's really difficult to kind of drill down and figure out what the truth is.
Well, I actually feel a little bit for the city of Ottawa because truly, I mean, they are the nation's capital. So of course they're going to have a protest. This is the biggest protest they've ever had. And the protesters, the demonstrators just want to talk to Justin Trudeau. And I feel like he's hiding and letting Ottawa deal with a problem that's actually his.
Right.
It's unfair in a lot of
That's
ways.
what I was just saying. You're right.
Like,
exactly.
Why aren't they coming? I don't understand why the council and why the police aren't going to Justin Trudeau. Okay, this is your mess.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Rick Walker just said that.
Oh,
get your ass out there, Justin, and talk to these people. That's your damn job.
Right. He's not even doing his job, and he's still making money, and it makes me sick.
Instead of talking to people, he goes so far as to invoke the Emergencies Act to declare war on the people that are out there protesting. These are Canadian citizens. They are not terrorists. Just talk to them.
That's right. And rather than talk to them, he invokes the Emergency Act, and I'm not even sure that he's lawful in doing so. I'm not sure that this Emergencies Act isn't going to fall apart when it goes to Senate.
Yes. I'm pretty sure it will. There's no way this meets the test. No way.
Well, I mean, why are the RCMP there today then?
Because it takes effect immediately, but he has to take it to Parliament within 7 days. It gets reviewed by the Senate as well. 7 days. So, yeah. I mean, come on.
Well, we've had Jason Kenney, Scott Moe, and several other premiers, Francois Legault, which is interesting because he's the premier of Quebec, and they've had the most stringent lockdowns, I would say, in all of Canada. They've all come out and said, we don't need this. And things are actually cooling down at a lot of these border blockades. Well, not blockades, but border closures, I will call them, because we could twist our words too. Haha. So all these premiers are saying, no, we don't even need this. What's the point? And now he's going to look very stupid by the time this gets to discussion, because everything will be simmered down. And they'll be like, well, the only problem is here in Ottawa, and that looks like a you problem, Justin.
Well, I think Rick Walker made a very valid point when he said, they think they're under siege and they have, invoked the Emergencies Act, something they've never done before. What are they going to do? What would they do if they were actually under siege or occupied by another country? They don't know what they're doing. I think he was correct in that.
God help us all if we ever have a real emergency, right?
Well, I think that they would be so unprepared. And there's a simple solution. Justin Trudeau needs to come out of hiding and speak to his citizens, period. Well, first he needs to identify these people, us as citizens, first and foremost, but he needs to address this. This could have ended so long ago.
Yeah,
negotiations.
Yeah, and they need an attitude adjustment, as Sheila is referring to here. Respect, respect for the Canadian people, respect for the Canadian citizens, respect for those truckers. That's what these guys need, but they don't have it. They have contempt and prejudice. What they see out there is a bunch of banjo playing toothless redneck hicks. That's in their heads. That's what they think they are dealing with. And because they believe their own propaganda, they think they're a bunch of racists. They need to adjust their attitude, put some pressure on the PM to get his ass out there and talk to these guys and treat them with some damn respect.
Exactly. I mean, I think the truckers have proven themselves to be the most resourceful, and truly, they seem to sit on the higher end of the intelligence of this.
I've seen it heard many times that the science is with them, and you can see that because they are closing mandates left, right, and center across the world and in Canada.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And messed up world, you're right. Trudeau knelt at a BLM rally at the height of the pandemic restrictions when there was not supposed to be any outdoor gatherings at all, BLM marches, and yeah, they were allowed to do whatever they wanted to do. But these guys, no, they're at the other end of the political spectrum. They're on the freedom side. Freedom for people. That's what they want. But they've twisted that word freedom too, so that it means something different to them. It doesn't mean freedom to them anymore.
No.
It means freedom to be safe.
Freedom
to be safe. That's what it is. We'll keep you safe. You don't need to keep yourself safe. You don't make those kind of decisions. The government makes them for you.
Yeah.
Well, they do everything in the name of safety, right? That's what they justify everything with. Safety, safety, safety. Safety should be the main priority for police. But when you twist it and use safety, when politicians start to use it in a way that suppresses your freedom, and they use safety to convince people to give up their freedom, sometimes even economic safety by giving you free crap or what you think is free money. But anyway, that's a whole other issue. Right now, they're missing the point. They're missing the easy way to resolve this, which is dialogue. They don't want to talk to any of these people because they don't respect them. They'd rather beat the crap out of them with more coercion. They want to go down there and take away their bouncy castles because they just hate it so much when people are down there hugging and singing and waving those flags. I'll tell you something else.
Maybe we need some rubber swords in the bouncy castle, and maybe they can duel it out in the bouncy castle.
Well, take out some aggression down there.
Well, that chairwoman, who I would once again call her Canadian Nancy Pelosi, it's going to stick. Yeah. Because of the amount of time she said insurrection, amongst other stuff. She was just about ready to be deputized there, to go downtown Wellington Street, Ottawa, and start ripping things apart herself.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure we're not going to see her there.
Yeah, like she says there were. So, Carla, let's explain to people where you are and why you're riding in a car right now. Because you had to leave Ottawa and you're on your way back to Ottawa. And just let people give some people some context here.
Yeah, we had a situation back home in Kamlaki, so we had to leave Ottawa, and our intention was to leave a little bit earlier in the day, but the day kind of got away, so we're traveling through the night. I mean, we're just getting through Toronto traffic right now. So we kind of we ended up losing 2 days on the ground. I'm not sure what we're walking into. I mean, so since we were gone, that's when Justin Trudeau invoked the state of emergency. That is when when we heard about the potential. Okay, so everyone knows about this truck filled with weapons that was unguarded, was stolen, and now the assumption is that these weapons could potentially be planted, in Ottawa. So there's just a few little things, and then of course the general stepped down. So, which is, police chiefs, the police chief. But I also heard another story, and I don't know if you guys can speak to this for me because I haven't had a chance to research it myself. But is it true that the chief of police in Peterborough also stepped down today?
I
Because that
didn't hear
just
that,
adds
but
a
we
whole
can
other
we can
layer to this
absolutely
truck.
check on it.
Oh, the
Well,
mayor of Peterborough stepped down.
the
I know
mayor, not the
that.
police chief. Okay.
Yeah, the mayor, because remember, Rick, I sent that to you yesterday, that they had
Yes.
cited reasons of mental health that they had stepped down,
Yes.
and the deputy mayor of Peterborough was going to take over. I don't know if that's connected or not.
Well, it
I
just
don't know.
seems fishy to me, you know.
Yeah.
The whole truck with the weapons. The mayor steps down today. I don't know. There's something fishy, and I mean, over the last month, we've seen several politicians also step. We've seen people stepping down everywhere. Public health officials. What is going on?
I don't know,
Should we-
but this city under siege. See all these people fleeing on ice skates? They're
frightening.
running. They're trying to escape from the vicious, racist, violent truckers. So they all put on ice skates and they're making their way down the ice to get away from the insurrection.
Those citizens look terrified to me.
Yes, that's Ottawa tonight. This was shot just a little while ago.
Because I don't think any demonstrators brought their ice skates that I'm aware of.
Oh my!
I think some did. I think Liz Valley brought some when she was there. Should we actually roll the clip from the convoy team security guy? I can't remember his name.
Convoy. I don't have a clip for that. What are
What
you referring to?
He came out and he was talking about that weapons cache.
I don't have it
possibly.
here.
All right, let me see if I can find it. Hold up. You guys go ahead.
So, when will you be back in Ottawa then, Carla? You'll be.
So I'm thinking our ETA is about 11 o'clock tonight. I don't imagine much is going to be going on Wellington Street at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday night. It's just been my experience over this whole thing that the nights, like things wrap up pretty early through the week, you know, because there's less people. I might take a stroll when I get there just to have a look and see what's going on. I'd be interested to see if any trucks have moved. I did hear them talk about some trucks moving from the side streets up to Wellington. I'd like to see what's gone on there.
Yeah, there was.
Is this alive right now that we're looking at?
This is not live. This was shot just before the sun went down. So this is very recent, but that gives you a good indication of what's happening. And there are still trucks there. The protest continues.
Yeah.
In spite of these increased threats from the Prime Minister and the use of the Emergencies Act, right?
Yeah, I definitely like, you know, when we discuss coming, it's sure, yeah, he did do that. Not exactly sure what we're walking into, but not exactly fearful either, because I don't think he's going to actually, he's going to make this fly. I don't think it's going to be able to stick.
Well, in your case, you know, and in your case, when you get there, because you're a journalist, you're covering this, right? You're not a protester, you're a journalist. So if they were to target you, that would be completely inappropriate, absolutely wrong.
Well, and in addition to that, I'm also getting some footage for a legal office. So I'm a legal observer on top of that. So yeah, it would be pretty bad.
Yeah. So the other interesting development today was that apparently some people have started to withdraw money from banks. And there's some concern that it might end up triggering a run on banks because of what Justin Trudeau did yesterday by invoking the Emergencies Act and using that to go after funds and giving government the power to freeze bank accounts, seize assets, just seize private property as they see fit from anyone that they think is not only involved but supporting these truckers. It's making a lot of people very nervous, because what that really does is that now gives the government the power to go after just about anyone. If you donated $20 to the truckers, even if it was $20 cash, if they have any record of that, if you've said anything on Facebook saying, "Go truckers, go," they could target you. They could arrest you for being an insurrectionist. I'm not exactly sure how the law works around that, but the reality is these are questions that people are you know, coming up with now.
I've heard of
I-
many people withdrawing their funds from the banks because they are fearful of that. And I mean, would it not further sink our economy?
It does undermine confidence in the banks. And
Yeah.
the truth is the banks don't have enough money on hand,
like
to
real money.
hand out. Yeah, they don't have it. It's not
Right.
there, folks. It's all fake.
Justin
It's
Trudeau
all-
has spent all any real money we've had.
Actually, I received a report today where independent media outlet Druthers News, they had their BMO bank canceled today. They shut down their account.
Yeah, that's true. A reporter from Druthers went there, and they raised money for the truckers, and people were donating cash or whatever they did, and through e-transfer. So he went down to his bank account, his personal bank account, and tried to withdraw the money and have it given to him in bank drafts so he could give it to some of the truckers on site there. And because the bank realized that he was going to be giving those bank drafts to truckers, they froze his account, wouldn't give him the bank drafts. There was over $100,000 in the account. Now, here's the thing, though, okay? He's supposed to be a reporter, and he is funding personally the protest or helping them, right? And admitting that he's doing that. Now, I don't think they should freeze his funds, but that puts you into sort of a different sphere when you do that. And I don't think that, like, we would not go down there and directly fund the truckers. We have positions on these issues, and we're expressing our views, but we're not directing this. We're not encouraging anyone to do any particular thing, and we're not directly raising funds for the truckers ourselves through this. No. Through our media company or through our personal accounts or anything of the sort. So when Carla goes there, again tonight and tomorrow and for the next few days, she's there as a journalist. And she has to remain somewhat impartial in order to remain detached. Because we're not there to direct this thing. We're also not on the police side, right? We're not on anybody's side because it isn't our protest. We need to have some impartiality to remain somewhat detached. But what we seek is truth. Truth. And when we see BS, we call it out too. And that's what we were seeing in that police services board meeting.
Yeah.
You know, on the other side of it, it's clear that the legacy media, CTV, CBC, Global, the Toronto Star, that they're all in league with the government. They're getting money directly from the government. They're all on the payroll of the federal government. They're doing the government's bidding. They're delivering the government's messaging, and that's what they're on page with. And so they're sort of dirty in all of this too, right? But they're portraying themselves as being impartial and neutral, but they are not. And that's why they've lost the trust of the public. And as we saw in that police services board meeting, there's some concern that police are losing the trust of the public, but they've got it backwards. They think they're losing the reputation of the police service in Ottawa is being damaged because they've seen officers trying to be kind to the truckers to make sure that they're kept safe. They don't want the officers giving them any aid at all or treating them like human beings. So that they think that's damaging their reputation. You know what's damaging their reputation? A heavy-handed approach, not just in Ottawa, but across the country. That is undermining trust in police, trust that was built up over generations of community-based policing, a community-focused policing strategy. This is not community policing. This is coercive. This has crushed them.
It's so politicized. That's the problem.
Exactly.
You know, that's where the problem lies, is that they politicize the police. And truly, it's unfair to the police.
Yes.
They're taking their focus away from what their actual job is.
Yeah. And they kept saying that in the police services board meeting. We can't direct you, interim chief. We can't tell you what to do or direct you what to do. But they are. they're applying pressure. And you saw in their questions and like, why haven't we seen action down there? Why didn't you take those bouncy castles down right away? Why did you let those trucks in there? We want something done.
The police know that this is a legal protest. They know that it's peaceful because they have boots on the ground.
That's right. And
they know that they can't.
That's why we're seeing the actions that we're seeing. They only go so far, right? When they were stealing the fuel, even that, they had to kind of stop because it's not really legal. Now you've got the cops breaking the law. So how far will they go? And the cops know that if they go too far, even the cops on the ground, right? If they go too far, well, now they're putting themselves in jeopardy personally. They need to do the right and ethical thing all the time. And that's something they have to run those scenarios through their head and make sure that they're on the right side of the law as well. And just because some woman on a police services board or some guy sitting there has his knickers in a knot because there's a bouncy castle in front of the Parliament buildings, it doesn't mean that they get to go down there with nightsticks and start clubbing kids and taking away their toys.
And if they think that the citizens are losing faith in the police service, I mean, could you imagine if they in fact did do those things? I mean, I feel like the police are really in a hard spot.
They are.
In all of this. They are. I mean, they're being pulled in every direction. And I'm just going to go back to the same thing. The police are being politicized and they're being forced to do Justin Trudeau's dirty work. Doing things for Justin Trudeau. But this could all end if Justin Trudeau would just address these truckers.
Yes, that's exactly right.
And that's the part that blows my mind, that he just refuses. I mean, Fox TV News is just, they're having a heyday with Justin Trudeau.
Yeah, because he deserves it. He deserves.
My personal opinion is absolutely he does.
Yeah, he absolutely deserves every bit of scrutiny he's getting, and the Canadian people and the citizens of Ottawa deserve better. I do. It may not sound like it sometimes, but I do empathize with the people who live there. I'm sure that it's annoying as heck to have to deal with the presence of all these trucks and protesters. But this is the place that it gets done. And I'm sorry, these comments that keep coming up, well, you just have to protest, make your point, and then go home. You have to, and when you have a situation like this, the protesters feel like they have no other option at this point.
Well, and sadly, I don't. I mean, they've been here for nearly 3 weeks, and you would think within the 3 weeks that our government would have seen the point, but they're ignoring the point. So how can they go home when they don't feel that their point was even seen?
In fact, they're making the point for the truckers. Justin Trudeau's making the point for them because he refuses to talk to them, which just illustrates the fact that you've got a tone-deaf government that is singular in focus.
Right.
And their approach has been a complete and utter failure on every level and at every step.
Could you imagine if Justin Trudeau treated any of the hostile countries, like any of the countries that are hostile against Canada, in this manner? Could you imagine? Like, it would be a total disaster. Like, we would just get annihilated instantly.
Yeah.
And, look at the streets here. Like, not a lot of people here today, right? Not like what we saw on the weekend, but the trucks are still there. It's quiet. I don't know. I think I could live there. I could walk down the street there. I wouldn't feel afraid. It doesn't look to me like people are being harassed.
I've noticed over the 3 weeks that I've been on the ground there that we are seeing more and more citizens of Ottawa coming out and just going back to business as usual. I think in the beginning they were terrified to come out because they didn't know what to expect. It was the fear of the unknown. It was, I believe that they didn't understand that it was going to be as peaceful as it was. And so now, 3 weeks in, we're seeing the citizens kind of coming in and just going about business. More restaurants are opening, more businesses are beginning to open.
Yes.
So, and I do, and like you, Rick, I do empathize with the citizens of Ottawa. I mean, the honking was probably horrendous for anyone who lived in some of the apartment buildings that were straight downtown, that were just blocks from the square. It would have been challenging to deal with that, especially if you don't agree with this protest to begin with. But they've honored the 10-day injunction to not honk. I'm curious. I was trying to think about when is the 10 days up. It must be up soon. So I'll be interested to see if the honking resumes to the level it was.
I've lost count of the days now. So yeah, I can't remember, but it's got to be,
but it
maybe
has to
maybe
be
4 or
close.
5 days left.
Yeah. Oh well, then they're halfway.
Pretty close to it being over, I would say.
Yeah, I don't know, Carl. I'd have to. We can look it up, but
I was trying to remember that myself, and I knew that we were at least halfway there.
Yeah. It's in a way, it's a shame. This whole thing, you think back to when this started and the outpouring of national pride, the people lining the highways, people cheering the truckers on, waving the Canadian flag, feeling a sense of hope that this whole thing could, result in something really positive in the end, right? That's how it started. And where are we at now? It's like Justin Trudeau has just come down there and he's just tried to take everybody's joy away. And that's really what they're doing. It's like a film of gray has been laid over this whole thing with their ongoing smear tactics. The way they've just tried to, the way they've insulted these truckers. They've thrown everything they can at them to try to shut this thing down. And if you think of how this could have gone, think of what this could have been. It was, in many respects, a national moment, a moment in history that could have been such a shining moment, right? For the whole country to shine. The world was taking note. It was inspiring other freedom movements around the world. And Trudeau had to just, no fun for you, no national pride, no singing, no horn honking, nothing.
I believe that the momentum will still be there. I don't think it's going to be that easy, no matter what Justin Trudeau does, to remove that level of Canadian pride that has been there.
No, it's the seeds of freedom have been sowed.
Right. And,
Whatever,
and I think they were planted.
Yeah.
And for what? What the hell is he holding on to anyway? We're seeing provinces begin to drop the mandates. We saw a Super Bowl where, what was it, 70,000 people maskless in a stadium all together, okay? But here, he has to keep his stupid mandates in place to keep everybody strapped down, restricted, and for what? For what? And today, even Doug Ford came out, the Premier of Ontario, and admitted the vaccine mandates don't work. He admitted that if you get vaccinated, you can still catch and spread COVID. So it makes no sense to continue with these stupid mandates. Even he said so. And I've got the clip. We're going to run that for you in a minute. But come on, man. See, this is supposed to be about our health. The Prime Minister tonight is sitting wherever the heck he's sitting, refusing to come to talk to these guys. This is about him trying to show these guys and show the Canadian people who's boss. This is Justin Trudeau continuing to try to rule through fear. Fear. Oh, you're going to park your rigs down in front of Parliament Hill? Well, I'm going to implement the I'm going to invoke the Emergencies Act. I'm going to bring the cops down there. He won't use the soldiers at this point because he knows the optics would be really bad, but he will militarize those police, and he'll give them special powers to go in and do whatever needs to be done. And honestly, I have to wonder about the chief resigning today. I have to wonder if maybe there was pressure being put on him to go to lengths that even he was unwilling to go to take.
That was made adamantly clear by what we had seen in that meeting today, that police board meeting today. That was made adamantly clear.
Yeah, the interim police chief is going to be under immense pressure at this time. I actually don't envy him.
Oh,
No,
he's probably getting high off it. He probably likes it.
You think?
Yeah. Otherwise he'd step down.
You know, all those police services board members were out virtue signaling each other. That's what it was, man. They were all trying to show how woke they were.
Well, they did a great job.
Yeah, they certainly did, didn't they?
The
I don't know, man.
The language was incredible. And when you're watching this footage, let's think back to the language they were using. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Insurrection, under siege.
Yeah.
I'm still looking for the trebuchets. Like, where are they? They got to be there.
See, the other truth here is these truckers have kept lanes open for emergency vehicles. Yes, they're all parked down there, but the congestion is in a concentrated area. They agreed, I think it was 2 days ago, to start moving rigs, right, out of residential areas and move them into other areas. There was mention of that in that police services board meeting, and those police services board members were not happy about it. You could see that. They didn't want to give those truckers anything, but it was a negotiated thing where the truckers were agreed to move those rigs up onto Wellington Street to get them out of the residential area because the truckers didn't want to be an inconvenience or a problem for the residents either. That was never their intention. Their intention is to try to put pressure on the government. And that's why they're parked where they're parked, as you see right there in front of the Parliament buildings, which is an appropriate place to have this kind of demonstration. So let's cue up that clip from Doug Ford.
Doug Ford. Rob's long gone.
Yeah, he's long gone. Rest his soul.
As will be Doug Ford, I believe.
Yeah, he'll be gone politically. Yep.
For sure.
I think he's toast.
Yep.
He
even supported the emergency powers, the Emergencies Act set in.
Yeah.
Well, he definitely wears red, right?
Let's pick this up.
It wasn't sold on him, but went along and we did.
This was a news conference today.
The doctor said we need to do this. And now moving forward, the doctor in there for the mask. I respect him. You know, Dr. Moore is phenomenal. But you know something? He's reasonable too. He's reasonable. He gets it. He understands the economy, and I think he's done an incredible job. But thank God on March 1st, we're moving forward out of this. And man,
Ontario's dropping the vaccine passport thing.
March 1st.
Yep.
What specifically do you want?
But the masks remain in place.
In Ottawa, and yeah, like politically, the question is more: why do you support this?
They understand. Well, speaking of the police that feels that they need to remove the occupiers.
I'd really like to hear the rationale of why the masks are staying in
and
place.
Hamilton and around the GTA. Imagine
the numbers aren't there, the data's not there.
People. They can't go downtown. They can't even go to the mall.
He's still using that language
to go shopping. It's crazy. And again,
see, he uses holding 1 million people hostage, refers to them as occupiers. He still doesn't get it. He doesn't have any respect for those truckers or working class people either.
I'm the first to say we have the right to protest, and we have I believe in freedoms and liberties in this country.
In other words, you can protest and say what you want as long as you do it someplace where we don't have to listen to you.
And I'd never, ever want to squash that. But when you're holding up the economy,
And they wonder why they haven't
and
left.
you're costing $700 million,
They never
and
got
that's
heard.
Yeah, and he's talking about holding up the economy. This guy is the guy who held up the economy. This guy,
Absolutely.
Justin Trudeau, the other premiers, they're the ones who devastated the Canadian economy, spent us into oblivion while preventing people from being productive and going to work, while they were scaring the living daylights out of everyone with fear-mongering over the whole pandemic.
just short term. Long term, some companies just say, that's it. We're out of here. We're gone. You never get them back.
Yeah, you're not going to get the companies back that you put out of business. You put thousands of small businesses under.
That's our goal.
And let's not
And
forget
so
that
they're-
thousands and tens of thousands of people who are unemployed, who've lost their jobs
That's exactly right.
over the mandates. Like, no one ever discusses that.
Yeah, are they going to get their jobs back, Doug? Are they? You cost a lot of nurses their jobs. You cost a lot of people in a lot of different sectors their jobs because you pushed these mandatory vaccination mandates. What are you going to do with all these people now? What are you going to do?
Like, the
We're moving
unemployment rate
along.
is
We have
higher
the
than it's
bridge
ever been.
Open now, and they did some great work. Now let's just clean up Ottawa. Folks, let's unite this country. I've never seen this country in this province.
Then go down there and talk to them.
They've
so
invited him to the
divided.
stage.
You know,
Yes.
it has affected friendships, it's affected co-workers, it's affected families. And I can tell you guys, I faced all three of them.
Yeah, well, you're the one who's assisted in dividing everyone because you aligned yourself with Mr. Hate Spewer, Mr. Fancy Socks himself.
And man, it's challenging, especially on the on the family side.
Hi, good morning, Premier. I
He's
wanted
talking
to
about
ask
his
you
daughter,
about,
Krista, by the way.
Yeah,
Krista Hayden.
yeah. Well, maybe she should run for premier.
the situation
like
in
to see
Ottawa.
her
So
run
you
in his
brought in the
place.
emergency orders on
Yeah, against him.
Friday. The Ambassador Bridge seemed to have been resolved pretty quickly after that. So can you give us, in your view, what is a reasonable time frame to wrap up the situation in Ottawa? People have been dealing with it for 3 weeks now. What in your view should be a reasonable time frame now that 3 levels of government have declared states of emergency?
Well, all the three levels of police forces are working together, Colin. That's the municipal and provincial and federal. And obviously everyone knows I don't direct the police. I'm not allowed to direct them, and I have no need to. We have just phenomenal police officers, and hopefully they're going to move them on as quickly as possible. But I just asked the protesters, guys, we're moving out of this. Why? Why cause pain? The ironic thing is, Colin, they're saying the freedom.
Because nobody trusts you. That's why. Because they're down there, and you wouldn't have budged had they not gone down there. That's why none of this would have been happening if those truckers hadn't done what they've done. If they didn't set up in front of Parliament Hill, none of these politicians would be where they're at right now. It's the truckers that moved the needle on this thing.
He had no intention of removing the vaccine passport.
Not one. You're
until
right.
These truckers came. He said he had no intention anytime soon.
Yep.
His
Thank
party
you,
also
truckers.
gaslit like everything inside of Queen's Park for the past 2 years, where you're not allowed to talk about anything COVID related unless it's not even going to mention it. But the point I'm trying to make here is like they've silenced people and they haven't talked about issues that real Canadians think about. It's not no representation in Queen's Park.
Than the pandemic could ever hurt. Hundreds of thousands of jobs, millions of families. You know, as simple as even the food processing companies can't get certain ingredients, certain widgets can't get across the border. Like you just
certain widgets can't get across the border. You guys shut the border down.
You can't hold up the economy and affect hundreds of thousands of families. So
unless you do it.
To answer your question more directly,
and as I said the other night, it's not the first time the border has been shut down for protest, but this is the first time the Emergencies Act has been invoked because of it.
Hopefully the police in the next little while, a few days, hopefully sooner, can move on. But, you know, folks, it's complicated, Ottawa. You know what makes it complicated? They have the kids there. The kids are our priority, right? We don't want anything to happen to any kids.
Because if it wasn't for the kids, what he's saying is they would have the cops go in there and bust skulls. But because the kids are there, they don't want to do that. So who's being violent or threatening violence here? Isn't that really what that means? What do you guys think?
Yeah, big time.
There's no other way to take that.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me. If it wasn't for those kids, we'd be down there busting skulls.
So please just
get the kids out of the way so we can bust your skulls.
Yeah, but the fact that the kids are there takes away his reasoning for busting skulls. It proves that it's peaceful.
Right, because the parents
when have there ever been kids at a protest?
Right. Do you think parents are going to bring kids to a protest where they've got, where they're anticipating violence? No, the people they're afraid of are the cops, and that's because of what the politicians have put the cops up to.
Guys, let's just unite. That's all I'm asking.
Unite? You won't even talk to them.
All this nonsense. We're in such a competitive environment, and we're all fighting amongst ourselves. Well, not all of us, but a small percentage.
Well, that's because you called them a bunch of yahoos back not very long ago.
Is fighting against the rest? Let's just get along. That's all I want.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. I wanted to ask
let's
about
get
the
to
proof
it.
of vaccination certificates as well. It seems like a lot of businesses are kind of caught in a weird dilemma because you've given them the ability to continue on with the proof of vaccination certificates if they choose to. So for a business owner, if they remove the proof of vaccination, they may lose business because people might feel unsure, uncertain about dining in a restaurant with unvaccinated people. However, though, they may also face targeted.
They might gain a lot of business because people who aren't vaccinated will be able to go.
Harassment if they keep up with the proof of vaccination. What's your suggestion for what a business owner in that situation should do?
I think the market's going to dictate. You can go to Costco, you can go to Walmart, you can go shopping. You don't know if the person has a shot beside you or not, but we also know that it doesn't matter if you have 1 shot or 10 shots, you can catch COVID. See, the Prime Minister has triple shots, and I know hundreds of people with 3 shots that caught COVID. We just have to be careful. We've got to always make sure we wash our hands and move forward. But
you're admitting this now? How long do you think that he's known that, guys?
Since the beginning.
And he's just saying it now?
Because he's cornered.
And there's an election.
No narrative.
Yes, that's
gone.
Right. Yes. This is disgusting. 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 This guy, yes, he took the opposite position, told people that you had to get the vaccination and you had to do that to get the passport because it was the only way to get out of the pandemic. That's what he said. Now today,
had to do it to keep your job.
Right. It was the responsible thing to do. You had to do it for everyone else. Right? Now what's he saying? Oh my God. Look how far he's cost people their jobs. Took the carrot away and started to club them with the stick, as they said, right? In order to get them to do it.
And he comes out and he's all about long-term care, wanting more funding for long-term care, these poor elderly people, but yet he has prevented these people from seeing their family. They are dying alone. Some are choosing to give up because they cannot have their family in to visit them. It's deplorable what he has done.
What a big fathead.
Colin, we can't stay in this position forever. We got to learn to live with this and get on with our lives. I bet if I asked every single person in this room, do you want these damn masks or do you want them off? They want them off. They want to get back to normal. They want to be able to go for dinner with their families. And there's every single person, including myself, knows people that are unvaccinated. Sure, there's a rebel rousers, and then there's just hardworking people that just don't believe in it. And that's their choice. This is about...
What?
Can any of you see me rolling my eyes? I know it's dark.
Yeah, no,
we're
we
going to
can
get
see the
stuck
eye roll.
in the back of my head.
Again, a democracy and freedoms.
Can you play back that part where he says it's their choice?
As a government, they want to get back to normal. They want to be able to go for dinner with their families. And there's every single person, including myself, knows people that are unvaccinated. Sure, there's a rebel rousers, and then there's just hardworking people that just don't believe in it. And that's their choice. This is about, again, a democracy and freedoms and liberties. And I hate as a government telling anyone what to do. We just got to get moving forward and get out of this and protect the jobs.
Well, Doug Ford, you can talk the talk, but can you walk the walk?
This guy's a disaster, an absolute disaster. Flip flop, can't figure out what he wants to do. We have to just get out of this and protect the jobs. You know what? That's really a lot of what has been driving this, trying to protect the jobs. But more than that, he's been trying to protect the big companies because they're the ones who have been applying a lot of pressure on him. Doug, we need to keep our factories open. We got to keep making the money. Amazon, we got to keep making our $1 billion, right? Yeah, Doug, screw those protesters. Just get that bridge open, eh? That's what this is all about.
Who's moving these goods from the factories?
The truckers.
Yes.
I think a lot of people call them, probably yourself too. Everyone's done with us. Like, we are done with it. Let's start moving on and cautiously. And we've followed the rules, all of us, like 90% of us, for over 2 years.
Stupid rules, most of which made no sense at all.
It made no difference at all.
Exactly. None.
The world's done with it. So let's just
rules that were made up.
Good morning, Premier.
On the
you touched on it briefly, but are you worried that these protests will have lasting impact on the auto and steelmaking industries here in Ontario?
No, I don't think so, because we're cleaning up the bridge. We're making sure we send a message out to the rest of the world. We do have a stable and safe environment. There's a small group that's doing it. The police moved them on, and we're the best. I'm sorry to be so biased, but we are the best. I've traveled the world. I've traveled to the U.S. extensively. No one can compete against us. Ingenuity and smarts and hardworking people. We're workers here in Ontario. We'll compete against anyone, and we'll kick their butts.
And
okay,
perhaps for a representative from DeFasco, how will going green impact the workforce here?
Guys,
I have an idea before you get into anything. We need to create the Flip-Flop Hall of Fame. So we'll get Doug Ford, we'll put him on there, and we'll get Aaron O'Toole. We'll get other flip-floppers, put them on there.
Send them on vacation together, all of them, with new flip-flops.
What a moron. Do you think he realizes that he doesn't stand a chance in the next election?
Actually, I'm going to predict Doug Ford gets out of it with a minority government.
You really think so?
I think so, yeah.
I think people hate him so much now that I don't think he's no way.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Rick Walker. I think people really hate him.
Yep.
I think a lot of people are really going to hate Andrea Horvath, and they're really going to hate Stephen Del Duca of the...
See, those are the ones I think of too, is Horvath and Del Duca. That is probably my number one hated. I can't even stomach him.
And they want to lock you down harder. They are saying Doug Ford's giving into these protesters by getting rid of the vaccine passport, and they're going on and saying that Doug Ford coddles anti-vaxxers. Is that the Canada you want to live in? They're going to use the same tactics Justin Trudeau used in the past election, and they're going to use hate, and they're going to divide wedges between people, and the same bloody unions that were in support of pushing all these mandates are going to get behind them, and they're going to rally behind them. I'm more concerned about that than Doug Ford getting back in, to be honest with you.
You know, you just won your point with me, Brendan. I guess I have such a hatred for Doug Ford. I didn't consider that other end, so it's sort of choosing the lesser of three evils.
It is the lesser of three evils. Or, I mean, there's going to be other parties, but they're upstart parties.
That's the other reason he doesn't stand a chance, though, is you've got too much splintering on the conservative side. So it's just going to bleed support away from Doug Ford. And most people are not that tuned into politics that they're going to be that loyal to a particular party like the Conservatives, they'll abandon him and they'll go to the other smaller parties, and most will go to the Liberals. So I think you're probably looking at another Liberal government. And most people don't know who Stephen Del Duca is. They've never heard of the name. So he doesn't carry much baggage in there. And it's a whole lot easier in politics to come from that position where you don't have any record to sort of defend. But when you're Doug Ford and you have 2 years of pandemic missteps and blunders and flip-flopping and just stupidity to overcome and hope that people forget and excuse, no way. And they hate the guy. They absolutely hate him.
Well, I think a lot of people still have a bad taste in their mouth with the previous Liberal government in Ontario. And that may have, this is why I'm thinking it's going to be Doug Ford in a minority government. And you have to also remember that Doug Ford's campaign against the Liberal government in 2018 was actually really good. It was a good campaign. In fact, he had the most overwhelming Conservative majority in Ontario probably ever.
Buck of beer.
No,
that's how he did it.
It wasn't just about buck of beer. That is
terrible. We all tried it.
Buck of beer. Well, you know, the issues were simpler then, in a simpler time, in the before times.
No, his campaign was way more different than that. We're getting off topic with that anyway, but
maybe I should mention while that banner is up there, if you want to support what we're doing here, if you like what you're seeing, we would appreciate donations because we are incurring expenses to bring this to you. Carla's on her way back up to Ottawa. She has expenses up there. There are other expenses for bandwidth and the software and everything else that comes with putting this kind of work together, and we've been putting hours and hours and hours every day into it since the beginning, and we're going to be continuing with this for some time to come because it's pretty clear that the legacy media is not providing balanced, fair, accurate, truthful coverage, and that's what we're here to do. We're here to balance off that and give people a more complete perspective on what is happening with the convoy and with politics in general. And that's a pretty important thing. And we're going to talk more about that tonight. But you can go to freedomreporters.com and donate there. There's also a link in the description on the YouTube channel, which you can refer to, click on. It'll take you right to the donation page. And we would certainly appreciate it. To this point, we really hadn't monetized anything. And this is the first time we've asked anybody for anything. Is this week when we've been trying to generate some funds to make sure we can keep on doing this. It would be extremely appreciated. And to those who have donated already, thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
And in the very least, you could always support us by giving this video a like and a subscribe and hitting the bell for notifications.
That helps us out a whole lot too because it helps build our channel. And
don't forget to share. Shares are good too.
Shares are good too. That's right. And thank you to Carla because everybody loves you.
Well, I just love everybody. I'm so lucky. Honestly, I consider myself very lucky and blessed to be able to have met Rick Walker and Brendan Kennedy. You guys keep everything on the straight and narrow. You bring so much, to this live every single night, and so much dedication to truth.
Well, it's the whole positive vibe down there, and then that's been flowing through you in the raw footage that you've been showing people, and that I think is spreading out into the people who have been watching, all the people who keep coming back to watch us every night, and we've got tens of thousands of people watching every night now. Actually, hundreds of thousands last night. New record number of people watching from all over the world. And you know why? It's because that whole thing down in Ottawa has been absolutely peaceful and positive, full of love and positive energy. And you've been bringing that to people, Carla.
Well, it's Russia. It's just that. It just builds momentum, and it's a movement. It's no longer. It's not an occupation. It's not a siege. It's a protest, but it's more of a movement. The way that it's just gone rushing across the world, And to be honest, guys, I am always trying to, I'm looking to find some truth in the mainstream media. So I'm looking for negative things. I'm looking at the protesters. I'm looking and trying to capture this negativity. And the more I look for that, the more positivity that comes out. It's incredible. You know, the things that I stumble upon. I will continue to see if some of these things are true. I will continue to look for them, but you know, sad for the mainstream media. I seem to be, every time I'm looking harder for something negative, I find something more positive.
Yep.
You know, somebody had a quote up there, and that seems very T-shirt worthy. We should... Don't
tread on my
bouncy...
bouncy castle.
Oh, I want that shirt.
Pretty good.
The bouncy
That's
castle
pretty
has
damn
been
good.
a thorn in my flesh since it was taken down. I mean, don't tread on my bouncy castle. That one got big law too. It got a big belly laugh.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's funny.
Take my money.
I think it's hilarious.
I think I'm gonna have that shirt made. I'm gonna wear it next week. I'm gonna get that shirt made. Thank you for that. Brilliant.
So I do have, speaking of positive, I do have the footage that is free range of the pulling out in Coutts, Alberta.
Okay. That's true. They have been picking up the garbage down there. Absolutely true. Are you sending it to me, Brendan, or are you bringing it up on your side?
I'll bring it up on my side.
So, yeah, the protesters in Coutts, Alberta did pull out today. So that border has been reopened. And so, too, has the blockade on Highway 402 leading to Sarnia and the Blue Water Bridge. That has been taken down as well. So you want to let this roll? This is them leaving Coutts, Alberta, right?
Yes.
Today? Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, I'll let it roll. Audio good?
From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Thank you guys. Freedom! You know what? Everybody's
There you have it, a very sad close to the 2-week occupation of the Coutts, Alberta border. Very touching. I think Rick Walker is going to cry.
I have to wonder, are we watching a last gasp for Canada, or is that a new beginning?
It's a new beginning.
I'm going to go with beginning. Did you not see the pride on those people? They may have walked away from that border, but that true Canadian pride that was formed at that border will never go away. It's in them. They're forever changed, each and every one of them.
The entire country is forever changed.
Did they win anything there? Did they lose the battle? How do you characterize what has happened, Carla?
I can't see it as a loss. I choose not to see it as a loss, because it still gained attention of not only more Canadians throughout the world. It gained attention. It rose awareness that Canadians are willing to stand up for their freedom. And it also proved that we are kind people, that we are patriotic, and that we do live in unity. The division isn't what Justin Trudeau has tried to create. I see it as a win. I choose to see it as a win because they did make a very strong statement, and I commend them all.
Yeah.
This movement here at the Coutts border, it caused absolute havoc in the Conservative Party of Alberta, and it caused Jason Kenney a huge headache and forced him to start moving things and start talking about things that people are talking about. People are sick of all the mandates and all this other stuff. It also pushed Justin Trudeau in the very wrong way, and he went and stepped in it again. And I think pulling away from this is just going to make him look even stupider for invoking the Emergencies Act. He's going to have one less thing to deal with. He's going to be saying, oh, look, all this tyranny going on across Canada. We need to create a national emergency. Now he looks like a moron even more. And I commend them for stepping away in the way they did based off of the negative press. And I know you have different ideas about that, but at the end of the day, I think it was a small group of people in there. Whether or not it was government interfered with or not, I don't know. That will probably never be known. But I think they have caused a lot of discussion and moved things in the right way to where they ought to go. And they, like, that video will live on in Canadian history forever.
That's right.
I've seen some things surrounding the whole gun issue there, the confiscation of those guns. I've seen some information coming out that I won't really get into here because I want to deal in facts, but it has thrown some questions out there for me, and I think for a lot of other people. And the timing of all of that, everything about it, it just
oh, it stinks.
Yeah,
it stinks. I'm not going to lie.
Same thing with the theft of those 2,000 guns in that from that truck being stolen with all the guns. The timing on that whole thing, I just don't know. And then we saw that video come out, and the statement from the truckers saying that they got wind that someone was going to try and plant those things.
I have that queued up too, by the way, if you ever want to play it.
Yeah, let's play that. Let's bring that up.
Was it the RCMP officer?
Yes. I feel like I have to make a statement, though, because last night on the show when we were talking about what happened at Coutts, Alberta, I had declared in their statement, they had said that they didn't post any photos with it or anything, but they did let the media take pictures of the entire cache of everything that happened. So, I mean, I have to walk back on my comment there, and I can't just let it go, you know? And, I mean, just about every major news organization does have photos posted of it. So, I mean, if you guys want to look it up, go for it. It's...
Yeah, the pictures of the guns. Yeah, it's out there. It's from the police released the images.
Yes, it wasn't out there initially when we were attacking it the other day, and that's why I'm making the statement now, because I was questioning it, and I was... Doesn't make it any less weird how it all came down, but neither here nor there. All right, I got the statement queued up here for the security representative for the convoy.
Okay.
And there it is.
Okay, one moment.
Let me know when you're ready.
Just coming back to it, and we're bringing that up, and let her go.
Okay.
Good evening. I'm Danny Wolford. I was a former RCMP sniper supervisor that was regularly tasked with protection of the Prime Minister. Today, on February 14th, we received information from multiple believed reliable sources that firearms may be planted in Ottawa, specifically around the Freedom Convoy, to discredit the protest and to use as a pretext to forcibly remove peaceful protesters. Due to the nature of this information, we felt it prudent to notify the public in the interest of their safety. This private intelligence correlates with the approximately 2,000 firearms stolen in Peterborough, Ontario on Sunday morning, February 13th. Our sources have notified us that these weapons may be planted by nefarious elements, and at this point, we have no further knowledge about who is behind this act of sabotage. As soon as we received this information, we notified the appropriate authorities with whom we are collaborating, including the Ottawa Police Service, the Ontario Provincial Police, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and the Parliamentary Protective Service. We implore any of our demonstrators, if any activity is suspicious, please call 911 immediately. Many of us have left our homes to come here to demonstrate peacefully. We are all pleading with the police. Do not act indiscriminately. We are calling on all scrupulous journalists. Please turn your investigative talents to this matter. We expressly affirm the principle that change can only occur within the democratic process. We have never, nor do we ever intend to step outside of this democratic process. Public and police safety remains our paramount concern. Thank you.
So that was the statement from the truckers' side regarding those weapons that were stolen in Peterborough, along with a truck that was carrying them. And well, I don't know. The whole thing seems pretty strange to me. Pretty strange.
They had essentially came out with statements, the Peterborough police. They had released photos from the shipping yard that the truck was stolen from. It looks like a blue-colored sedan pulled into the yard about 3 a.m. at night. After which they muddled through the yard and then grabbed the truck. It's being reported that what has been taken is essentially little 22 millimeter hunting rifles that are barely fit for squirrel or partridge hunting or something like that. They're not exactly, but there is a substantial number of them, and it's not to be toyed with. This is something that, if used nefariously, could bring total failure to what they're doing there.
Any thoughts, Carla?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with just everything that Brendan said. I mean, this could be very destructive to anything positive we've done so far. You know, I just, the timing, there's just so many, the timing is what I find remarkable. I mean, they find this all happens, and then it's almost like the red carpet's been rolled out for that state of emergency. It's frightening.
Yes. So, do you think that there might be any credibility to the thoughts that some people have had that it might be planted or orchestrated or choreographed in some way?
Well, I think with the history of what the government is, I mean, you've got to remember, so many of us have been watching mainstream media, and it's been so polar opposite to what we're actually seeing happening on the ground. We've seen the government take many, many angles to try and shut this thing down, because at the end of the day, it is a legal protest. They've tried to make it appear illegal. They have stolen the funding, not once, but twice. I feel that the government would take just about any angle to shut this thing down. They do not want it to have to get violent, because they know that if it gets violent, it only looks bad on them at this point. So they'll do whatever they can to destroy the reputation of the truckers. So I personally would not be surprised.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion. But
these days, wouldn't surprise me at all either. I mean, even in the States, right? We saw just this week that more proof, more absolute 100% confirmation that the Trump administration had been spied on. Absolute confirmation. Yet the media, for years, kept saying it was all a conspiracy theory, that it was not true, and it was 100% true. And the German investigation goes on surrounding that, and now that's absolute, undeniable fact, and the documentation is out there, and we're going to see where all of that goes. But the point is, right, we're seeing all of this misinformation, real misinformation from the legacy media. It just continues and goes on and on and on. And on the Canadian side, I'm sure we're getting a bunch of it too. And a lot of it we're just not tuned into. We just don't know. And there's so much weirdness that surrounds even the RCMP sometimes, and a lot of the stuff that they do throws a lot of questions out there. And the timing of these guns, I mean, the government doing something unprecedented, like invoking the Emergencies Act, and they need justification to do that, and poof, here we go, right? We have, what do we have? Guns. Look at all the guns we found out at Coutts.
And that's what I'm saying. The timing is impeccable.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I think the big problem with all of us is we don't believe in coincidences typically.
Yeah, there are no coincidences usually when it comes to politics.
No. And
you know, when a government wants to go to war, when an administration wants to go to war, they usually do things to influence the public. What's the phrase? Manufactured consent. So that is often the strategy. And when I see pictures like this, with the timing that we were getting, not only this image and other images of these weapons, but also the story about the weapons being stolen out of Peterborough. How convenient is that, too? Like, close to Ottawa, the one, and this one out in Coutts where they've got a major problem. Man, I'm telling you, it just puts a big question mark over a lot of this stuff for me.
Oh, the biggest question I have is, if they were so ready to rock and roll, how come they just let the police come and take it? That makes no sense.
Yeah. Well, I don't even really know what to say about it other than what we've just said. We want to deal in facts here, and
well, that is a fact. They're claiming their claim is that they want to.
They were ready to use it.
They're ready to use it against the police, and that they were going to conduct violence against the police. But
and we don't know how police conducted that, right? How they went in and we don't know. So they would have had a plan to try to go in there so that they could do it without violence. So who knows? I just don't know.
There's a lot of unknowns, especially with that truck that has gone missing. So I find it very hard to believe that the police have been incapable of finding it, actually. How many transport trucks get stolen every year in Ontario? That's a good question.
A few. It does happen. But the timing and the way it happened and where it happened, and I don't know.
It's very disheartening. It's very uncomfortable.
As a lifelong journalist, I'm always skeptical. Always.
Well, I'm sure we're going to see something come of it, and
Let's just
maybe this week.
The Police Services Board is calling for action. The chair of the Police Services Board is ready to be deputized herself, so she can go out there and start popping bouncy castles.
Yes. I do like. I wish we could get a T-shirt that says, "Yeah, don't tread on my bouncy castle." That's a pretty good one.
I think I'm going to find somebody to make those shirts.
It is funny. Sorry, Carla's breaking up there a little bit.
To find out who the get into that place past Toronto where I lose service.
Yeah. Do you want to sign off for a couple of minutes while you travel into the next cell zone?
I think I'm gonna. Yeah, I
Pack
think
it
I'm
in?
going to do that because I do recognize this is an area where I do sort of lose cell power, and so
Yeah.
if I don't regain it appropriately before the end of the show, I'm just going to thank all of you for having me on the show, and I'm going to thank everyone who's watching.
And Carla is gone.
Yeah.
She's faded into the black
See you
hole
later,
of cell
guys.
phone nothingness. Thanks, Carla. There she goes. Yeah. And again, folks, she's on her way up there to Ottawa, and she is incurring pretty serious expenses in order to help us bring live footage from Ottawa to you and truthful, accurate perspective and analysis from the main protest in Ottawa. So if you're able to help, you can go to freedomreporters.com to donate and help cover the expenses that we're incurring to bring you these live casts each night. And the viewership has been growing exponentially. Hundreds of thousands of people watching last night. And I don't know what the numbers are tonight, but man, it's been growing huge. And it just shows that there is a need and an appetite for alternative journalism and an alternative perspective, because the mainstream media is just not doing its job anymore. I ought to know. I worked for CTV for 25 years, and I've been in the media business really in one way or another all my life, even from the time I was a teenager. And, still do some, I'm still engaged. I was kind of hoping to get out of the news thing, but when I saw what was going on with all of this, Brendan and I talked, and we just knew we had to I had to come back, come out of semi-retirement and, in a way,
To
and
support
do
semi
this.
trucks.
To support the coverage of the Freedom Convoy. It had to be done, because I knew when this whole thing began to unfold, I knew that my old employer and the other media outlets, I knew they would engage in a smear campaign in order to back up what the government was about to try to do and what they have done. And look at the lengths they've gone to invoke the Emergencies Act, the equivalent of the War Measures Act. And how did they do it? They needed justification by smearing these truckers as white supremacists, fascists, Nazis. And you saw how they did it with what we believe are probably, I think definitely, fabricated photos, by using the media to do their bidding, to do that end of their dirty work for them, a propaganda campaign that continues even now, even with that police services board meeting that we saw. You see the language they're using. Does that match? Does that mesh with what we've been showing you in the raw footage night after night over the past 3 weeks? Is it even resemble reality, what they're talking about? Is it even close? I think that these people have been repeating it so often they've started to believe their own propaganda. And it's not fair to the hardworking truckers, to the families that have been down there, to the other people supporting what's been going on. It's not fair to them, to those Canadians, to smear them that way. Even in Coutts, Alberta, you saw what that was. They all stood there in a row, in unison, in unity, singing the national anthem. Did those people look like terrorists to you? What is terrorism? How do you define it? How does Justin Trudeau define terrorism? What's a terrorist? Are you a terrorist because you gave the truckers $20? Because you sent them something through their Give, Send, Go crowdfunding platform or GoFundMe, which the government has now confiscated. They took that money. Are you a terrorist because you supported them? Truth needs to come out. Proper perspective needs to come out. The country's in peril, and it's largely in trouble because the media, which today is a propaganda machine, is in many ways working to destroy the country. That's what I see. I see it every day. I watch television and I want to throw things at the screen because of their carefully chosen, carefully crafted wording.
Rick Walker goes through a lot of televisions.
Where they manipulate people's minds. It's terrible. We're here to combat that. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing tonight. And Carla's on her way back there because she's been bringing you the raw footage from the nation's capital. If you want to help her, help us, that's how you can do it. Because we've been on here day after day after day after day. And we have other people on the ground too in other places. So we appreciate it very much. And we have had some people step up and lend us a hand. You know, Brendan, today I was watching a video feed from someone who has been down there and in Ottawa, made the trip, and they're fearful. And I won't tell you who it is because I think they're so afraid that they're actually afraid that they're going to be paid a visit, that they're going to be targeted. They're already dealing with a bunch of legal issues, and they're actually afraid for their own safety. It really disturbed me. And
can you provide some more context? Like, what are they doing down there? Like, I'm missing something.
This is somebody who's also on the internet, and they're like they've got their own video channel, and they post quite a bit, and they've been targeted by the government, and they went down to Ottawa to support what was going on. Okay, and this person is very, very worried about their family, their family's safety, and this person's own safety. So, and I get it. Like, I know. Look at what the government's doing. They're going after people's bank accounts, going after their assets. They're determined to crush these people, to charge them. And I think they're going to be using some of these new laws, if they can, these hate speech laws and laws under this Emergencies Act, to throw charges at these people that could put them in jail for a very, very long time. In much the same way we've seen with the January 6th event in the States, that was their playbook. In the States, they have a lot of people who went into that Capitol building, and they're still in jail today. And
they're, just so you know, everybody, they're there under trespassing charges.
Right.
Which is pretty light.
Yeah, like trespassing, but they've been in jail for months. And
yeah, this is where it's been 13 months since that incident happened. 13 months.
See, and the government, by passing these hate speech laws, it's all teed up because these truckers have been portrayed as a bunch of racist fascists full of hate, and they've been accused of spreading hate down there. And so they send in the cops, they get charged, they do all of these things to these people, and they're going to try and destroy them. And these people who just left from the Coutts border, okay, they're singing the national anthem. You think they're not coming after those guys? You think they're not? It ain't over.
No.
The government ain't done with them. Just because they left, they're coming. They're coming for them anyway.
Yeah, they got their pictures, their names, their license plates. In a matter of time before they'll be followed up at home with a knock at the door and a summons to the courts, or even just hauled off to jail.
That's right. You know, I hope that there's still enough reasonable people in positions of power that somehow our real true rule of law and adherence to the Constitution will remain in place. But I'm worried tonight that all of that is in suspension. With the invocation of the Emergencies Act, a lot of that stuff, most of it just went out the window. And even though Justin Trudeau says it's going to be targeted geographically, that it's going to be limited in scope and limited in time, make no mistake, by bringing it forward, it gives him broad, sweeping powers. He makes him
and not just him, because like we've seen at that police board meeting tonight, they had still not received any instruction on how to proceed further with the national emergency being declared. They have no idea. It's just like I called it last night. The more government you throw at a problem, the more incompetent it becomes. That means you're going to have a lot of police officers unsure how to proceed with something, and then they're just going to screw it up and step their foot right in it. And that's where you're going to get the biggest problems of them all. And then it'll be a big mess sorting it all out in the courts after the fact. Big mess.
Yeah. So, again, I mean, that's again why we're here, because we need to combat that with commentary, analysis, bringing this perspective to it, because the mainstream media, they're just cheerleaders. Those guys are cheering this on, largely. And we played some of those clips from 1970 during the FLQ crisis, when Pierre Trudeau brought in the War Measures Act. And back then, the media was still kind of doing its job. And there was, there's a CBC clip online, which I won't play for you again tonight, but they questioned him, right? The journalist who was involved in that CBC interview. And he asked the Prime Minister of the day, how far are you prepared to go after he implemented the War Measures Act? And Trudeau responded, well, just watch me. Well, that became a famous line, right? A famous part of Canadian culture and history. Well, his son, Justin, is making history now. I think it's extremely unfortunate, and I think we have a lost opportunity here, because this could have been a completely positive thing all the way around. He could have come out to talk to those truckers in the early days of this, and we could have had a positive resolution, and everyone could have gone home, and this would have been over a long time ago. And Justin Trudeau could have been a national hero along with the truckers. And then you would have had unity, because we're coming out of this thing anyway, one way or another. But so instead of crushing them and hammering them, could have gone the other way, man. But no, we're getting this instead. Very disturbing.
I don't even know how.
Martial law. Thoughts, Brendan?
I just wish, we could be left alone by the government. Like, that's all my goal really is. I just want to be left alone. I don't want the police knocking on my door. I don't want the police counting how many people I have over at my house. I don't want my neighbors calling them because I have my family over for a barbecue. Oh, they're over the capacity. Too many people there. We gotta squash this type of behavior.
Yeah.
We're all tired. We're all tired of it. That's the only thing Justin Trudeau is right about. We're all tired of it, but he has one thing wrong. We're tired of the government mandates and the government enforcement. That's what we're tired of. We just want to be left alone. We don't want to be bothered with any of these people, or and think about how many things that they've walked back on, and I still can't believe they're clasping to the mask issue like no tomorrow. And the biggest thing is if we get out of this, you could still be free to restrict yourself as much as possible. You could stay home. You could lock yourself in your closet. No one will bother you. You could wear 1 mask, 2 masks, 3 masks, 5 masks, 6 masks. Doesn't matter. You could even contact trace people around you. They may not like it, but you could still contact trace people around you if you want to. You could use hand sanitizer everywhere you go. It's up to you. Doesn't matter. You have the freedom to restrict yourself, and I get the freedom to be left alone. That's a win-win situation as far as I'm concerned. I don't know why anybody doesn't see that. Well, lots of people see it. Lots of people see it. But a certain select few who have had the bejeebies scared out of them, they don't see it.
So, Brendan, I'm just scanning here just to so we can stay up to date on what's going on, right? And I see, a couple of posts here where people are asking if all the trucks have left Ottawa. And apparently, it says here CTV is reporting that 360 trucks left Ottawa. I don't think that's accurate at all.
No, it's not.
But
they're in the staging areas, and remember, one of those staging areas is quite a bit of ways, like out of town.
Yeah.
They had the main Coventry staging area, but that was more or less for the in-town. But then there was another one that was outside of town from there. There's lots of trucks in Ottawa still. And I'm sure a lot of them can't be seen.
Yeah, we have some new footage out of Ottawa here that I'll queue up for you. So this was shot just a very short time ago. So regardless of what might be what might be coming out of other media outlets, and I've not seen a report from CTV saying that, but that's what somebody out there is suggesting is going on. This is actually more what the situation is tonight in Ottawa.
Pigs up busted, all right.
So this footage just moments ago. So yeah, this is what it looks like down there, and obviously it's a protest that's still ongoing. More jerry cans, and these truckers, true to their word, in spite of the increased threat and the more severe penalties that are potentially being imposed, right? These truckers are still dug in, and they're holding the line, as they promised yesterday. They did not run away. That has got to frustrate Justin Trudeau. It's just absolutely got to frustrate him.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of don't know which way this should proceed.
That dog is misogynist and racist.
I almost think that it might be a better idea to just leave in the night, not a word.
Hey, brother, what are you doing, man?
What are you talking about? Who should leave?
Like all the truckers, just
Why
everybody.
Why should they leave?
It's part of the plan.
Why?
Well, because the government and the police board and the media all want this to come to some sort of climatic end. If you take that away from them, it leaves them powerless, and it also leaves them looking foolish. And it also enables the movement to come back again at a warmer time period where it can come back like 10 times stronger. I think it could be, well, it's like a fake retreat, basically. Allows them to regroup and come back. But I don't know. I'm not strategizing or offering ideas, but I'm just saying Justin Trudeau would have an awful big piece of egg on his face if that were to happen, and he would look like a total clown that he is.
The problem, there are a lot of problems with that, though, Brendan, because a lot of these truckers and a lot of these protesters are there because they have nothing left to lose. And if they lose here, they're done. That's the point. Some of these people are being told to go home, but they literally have nothing to go home to. A lot of these guys have missed mortgage payments, that are losing their houses. They don't have until summer. They've been so hammered by all of these mandates and lockdowns, like a lot of small business owners, that they just don't have anything left. They're desperate people. That's why they're parked outside the Parliament buildings. The people in that police services board meeting don't seem to get that. That's the problem. They're out of touch. They can't relate to what these guys are going through, and they don't understand what they're really doing out there, how they're fighting for not just themselves, but for all Canadians. They're there helping everyone. They're trying to restore the Charter, restore the Constitution, restore people's rights and freedoms, which have been stripped from people over the past 2 years. And you can see that the government is only reluctantly giving it back to people. And these truckers can see they have made progress. They have been winning because the governments have been moving on these issues. So they've gained a lot of ground. We're seeing in Ontario now, March 1st, right? The vaccine passport mandate gone in Ontario. That's because these guys are down there right now. That's because of this. The premier, the politicians, they might deny it, but let's face it, it's the same thing across the country. Saskatchewan, Alberta, the lifting of these mandates in these jurisdictions is the result of this pressure coming from truckers who have turned themselves into freedom fighters. Well, if they back out now, that's what this fella said too, the one who's afraid. This is for everything, man. This is everything on the line. This is for all the marbles.
I get that.
This is it. Like, if this doesn't work, these guys, they're in a lot of trouble. Everybody's in a lot of trouble in a way because we're losing everything, man. This is a battle between good and evil, and this is the main battlefront. I don't know. I also agree with you. Like, even if this thing comes to a conclusion, this is the battle, but the war will continue, right? But I don't know how much stronger it will be, say, come spring or summer, because by then, Justin Trudeau will have had time to entrench as well and pass new laws, new legislation. They now, they're going after people's money. Those laws will be entrenched, and I don't know if they'll ever get this far again. This is unprecedented. This kind of thing has never happened before, and I don't know that we will ever see anything on this scale to this level again. And the other issue is this has been entirely peaceful to this point. Entirely peaceful. Even though the media, even though the government is trying to tell you otherwise, it has been entirely peaceful. The concern here is that as people become even more desperate, if there is another level to this or another round in this dispute, will it manifest itself in this same peaceful way, or will it take on some other character? I pray that everything remains peaceful, but man, I don't know. I just don't know. And I don't retreat. Those guys leaving the border in Coutts, those guys leaving the border in Windsor, I don't know.
I don't think you understand what I'm trying to get to here. So, the Huns used to have a very specific, or the Mongolians, used to have a very specific retreat tactic. So they would take a small amount of their force, they would go up to the bigger force, and then the bigger force would say, "Oh, look how little of them there are. We'll just go and we'll charge them." So they would break ranks. The Mongolians would retreat, and then because the army had broken the lines, it makes it easier for their force to come in and just pick them off one by one. So it's called a structured retreat, right? So I'm not saying retreat and then it's gone. No, what I'm saying is we have the capacity here to make Justin Trudeau look stupid. But if they stay to the end, it's going to be a lose-lose situation.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning the government will lose because people are going to get hurt. And we always know how the government looks after people get hurt after these events. They always look really bad. The truckers will lose because then they will be basically incarcerated. They have the ability to take their resources that they have left, regroup them, and come back in a stronger number. So, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, if it does come to a forceful removal, it's a total lose-lose on the government. Justin Trudeau will look terrible on the world stage. He really wanted some sort of UN job or something like that, but I'll tell you, he's never going to get a job on the world stage ever again. He is toast. Done. Finished. But that's my point that I'm trying to make here. They have...
Well, I think we've already established that in many respects, they've already won. The truckers have already won because they've scored so many points. And the government isn't prepared to admit that, but it's true. And I think that I think you're right. And, you know, I agreed with you the other night, too, that I think Justin Trudeau is done. His days are numbered. He might, you know, to some of his supporters look like he's strong right now because he brought in the Emergencies Act to declare war on the truckers. But in reality, I think it's showing his weakness. It shows that he has been completely inept, has not been able to manage any of this properly from any perspective, whether you think that they should have been harder on these truckers or if he should have come out to talk to them and come to some sort of resolution through dialogue. Whatever your perspective is, he hasn't done any of it.
No.
And so he's been completely incompetent. And you're right, he looks like a fool. And it's exposed a lot of the stupidity around his policies anyway. So right now his support in the polls is at 16%. 16%. I don't ever remember any prime minister having approval ratings that low. I don't know.
I don't even think Donald Trump ever got that low.
So just, man, like 16%. He does not have the support of the people. But I'll tell you that, you know, similar polling shows that at least 2/3 of the population is in favor of removing all the mandates. So he's toast, man. And so I think Doug Ford is too. So I think the truckers are ultimately going to get what they want.
Yeah, they are, ultimately.
The mandates are going to go,
and
regardless.
There's some evidence of that on the federal level. So they have removed the PCR requirements for re-entering the country at an international airport.
See, in reality, Justin Trudeau could have saved his own skin by coming out to talk to them early on. But instead, you know, the truckers had very clear demand. Either Justin Trudeau steps down or all the mandates are removed, or the government steps down, right? The truckers are going to get both. If these mandates are going to go anyway, they're going to go.
Yeah.
And Justin Trudeau's going to be toast. They're going to get both. There's no way that guy is going to be able to hold on to his job. Their cracks have begun to emerge within, you know, the Liberal ranks anyway. So don't kid yourself. He looks foolish and incompetent, and it's going to cost him.
Big time. Especially now that things at the borders are clearing up. Like that's going to make him look really stupid, especially after he calls them like violent insurrectionists and blah blah blah. And well, you know what? We're just going to call it quits and go home, and we'll single Canada and give everybody a hug.
Well, it was a Canadian response, right? Because as soon as those cops decided to you know, show those guns to the world, right? They were like, "Whoa, wait a minute, that's not us.
Yeah.
We don't have anything to do with that. We disavow that." So much so that, you know what, we will walk away from this, because if you're that afraid and there's that much concern surrounding all of this, we surrender. That's it, because we don't want any violence. That was the message from the truckers. So they packed it in today. And, you know, again, very much to their credit. And, you know, some of them may live to fight another day. But as I also said, they're still coming for a lot of those guys. They're going to make examples of them. I'm sure of it. They're going to target those guys, and they're still going to pay a price. Not as severe a price as if they were arrested and hauled away and their trucks confiscated, however. But they're still going to face some consequences, I think.
I dearly, dearly, dearly hope after all this is said and done, that a parliamentary committee is put together to investigate all the terrible things the government has done with this.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that needs to happen as well with the entirety of the COVID response across provinces.
Yeah, you mentioned Donald Trump. Donald Trump was always popular. He always has had his base of support. He's always been strong. He packed them in. He still does pack them in. He's
I'm
very, very popular.
I'm talking about his polling numbers were.
Yeah, I know.
Took
but
a hit at one point.
Yeah, but
Justin
never
Trudeau
like
is,
that.
Is way, yeah, that's what my point was.
No, there have been other presidents with much lower approval rating. Biden, I don't know what his lowest point was. Maybe you look it up, but his has been dismal recently, especially after what happened in Afghanistan. And why do you think they're talking and rattling the sabers over Ukraine? That's because they need a distraction, man. Don't kid yourself. That whole thing in Ukraine, they want to go to war in Ukraine with the Russians. Why? Most people in Canada couldn't even tell you where Ukraine is on a map. But they want to send our young people over there to fight.
I have an idea.
Yeah.
We could send the chair of the Ottawa Police Board Service out there.
Well, that's exactly it. I hear people saying, "Oh, yeah, I support you." Can yeah, well then, go ahead, go fight.
Actually, I was really interested to find out that that Ukraine had recently arrested its opposition political leader, and they also had been arresting journalists and stuff. They're also not a part of NORAD. And so they're saying, our beloved allies in the Ukraine. It's like, give me a break. Nobody cares about the Ukraine. As far as I'm concerned, Russia could just have it. As far as I'm concerned, it already is Russia. And maybe that is not a very popular thing to say, but it's definitely not worth killing Canadian kids over.
Yeah, I gotta say, it's weird being down here.
Yeah.
Such a jovial and unified feeling.
Okay, so we're going to switch gears here. I'm going to bring you more actual live footage from a different source now. Here we go. This is live footage from Ottawa tonight. So as you can see, regardless of what else you might have heard, this protest continues in the nation's capital.
Yeah, I love it. Nice.
And
what do we have here? Oh, boys.
And just to bring people up to speed, if you're just joining us at this late portion of the broadcast, Ottawa's police chief did resign today. We were running portions of today's Ottawa Police Services Board meeting where they were discussing strategies to shut this protest down. We highlighted the language they were using, choosing to use words like occupiers, occupation, insurrection. Again, characterizing this whole thing as a negative, disruptive, burden on the economy. I did not hear them use words in that Police Services Board meeting like racist. But in the past, they did. The chair of the board, who's also a municipal councillor, did refer to this whole movement as a national insurrection. And that's the language that has been used to, in part, justify Justin Trudeau invoking the Emergencies Act, which is the modern equivalent of the War Measures Act. So he's gone to war with these truckers.
Love me some freedom sauces.
It's like I've said before, it's like I've said before, if Justin Trudeau were to handle like foreign relations like he's handled these truckers, like we would be so dead, like so much trouble.
Like, guys, I don't know if you fully, if I don't know if people, Canadians tonight, fully grasp the gravity, the weight, the importance, the significance of Trudeau using the Emergencies Act. If you can't see that this strips you of your rights thoroughly, if you don't understand that this is being used in a nonchalant, inappropriate way, in a way that is going to come back to hit us all like a giant sledgehammer, if you can't see that this is likely going to transform Canada into something that is unrecognizable as a free and democratic country, something alternative to that. If you can't see it, then I just don't know what it's going to take to wake you up. Because it's that big of a deal. It really, truly is. That's why some premiers have come out against this, saying they don't want the additional powers. They don't want this.
That's including Quebec, Alberta, Saskatchewan. Doug Ford was gung-ho for it, but those were among some of the few.
Okay, you guys okay? You warm? You warm? Okay, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
You guys have yourself a great evening, and we'll come down and check on you again real soon.
The Canadian Civil Liberties Association has come out and has denounced the federal government's use of the Emergencies Act. The CCLA says the law creates a high and clear standard that allows the government to bypass the ordinary democratic process. And the Canadian Civil Liberties Association says that standard has not been met.
Mine's been okay tonight, but
to add to
the government says that the truckers' protest is the reason for bringing it in, but the CCLA says that is not justification. Sorry, Brendan, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I was watching Question Period today, and the Prime Minister was in there speaking, and he doesn't clarify how long it's going to last, where it's going to be in effect, who it's going to affect. It's just all still very vague, and it's very inappropriate how he's operating under it.
Because I didn't. Not everybody likes to be on camera, right?
See, really, the Emergency Act should only be invoked when a situation seriously threatens the ability of the government of Canada to preserve national sovereignty, security, territorial integrity of Canada. It should only be invoked, really, if there's an existential threat to the nation of Canada. Like if we were being invaded by some foreign army. These are not foreign invaders, not foreign occupiers, as they keep referring to them as. These are Canadian citizens, these truckers. This does not meet the standard necessary to invoke the Emergencies Act. And it should only be used if the situation cannot really be dealt with effectively using any other Canadian law. And the truth is, even the police services had not used yet all of the tools available to them to deal with this situation involving the truckers. And as I pointed out earlier, the single most simple solution would be for Justin Trudeau to come out and just talk to these guys, to these Canadian citizens, many of whom I suggested yesterday probably even voted for Justin Trudeau. I think we might be surprised. You might be surprised to find that a lot of those guys actually supported him in the last election. But he has nothing but contempt for them. So using the Emergencies Act puts us on a dangerous and slippery slope.
You know, I'm kind of reminded in the last election when Rebel Media, just by the skin of their teeth, got to attend as press at the national debate, and Jagmeet Singh and Justin Trudeau were asked questions by Rebel Media, and he basically came out and just said, I don't answer these types of people. I do not agree with these people, and blah, blah, blah. He's doing the same thing with what we have here. He's just refusing to even acknowledge any aspect of it. He tried to ignore it, and then when it didn't go away, he tried to call it racist, and then it didn't go away, and now he's invoking the Emergencies Act.
Well, it's troubling. It's extremely serious. You know, that's why we need to highlight it. We need to draw attention to it. Very, very worrisome because, you know, the CCLA also came out and said, what was it? They said, they said that the Emergencies Act, the use of it should not be normalized. And that's because by doing so, it threatens our democracy and our civil liberties. And it's true. If you can, it should only be used in the most extreme and the most dangerous of circumstances. And that's not what we're seeing here. As I pointed out earlier, it wasn't even used during the 9/11 crisis, right? It wasn't even used for that. When every plane in the sky, as the Twin Towers came down, so too did every plane in over Canada and the United States, because the entire nation was under threat. Wasn't used for that. And that ended up having, you know, that transformed our society. It changed the way we travel between Canada and the United States. It changed the way we travel by air. It changed our entire society. And we went to war over that. But even then, it wasn't used, was not invoked. So, yeah, I don't know. It's seems very inappropriate. It doesn't meet the standard in my view. And that's not just my view, but you're seeing premiers step up and say that as well.
Yeah, and although the War Measures Act was invoked by his father, this particular act hasn't been initiated ever since its conception. So
That's
to
right.
normalize it now, like,
and even when
could you imagine
Go ahead.
Jagmeet Singh? Could you imagine Jagmeet Singh winning the next election by some sort of miracle, and him just taking this and using it for whatever he wants? And he's like a deplorable person. Like, I don't trust any of these people with this power here. Like, they've done nothing but inflame the working class. They sit up there in their ivory tower and bellow their orders at everybody. Fall in line or we will crush you. I don't trust these people.
Even back in 1970, when Pierre Trudeau brought in the War Measures Act, that was in response to the FLQ crisis. Well, the FLQ crisis started, you know, that was a terrorist group with very strong separatist views in Quebec. There were over 200 bombings connected to that. Okay? Over 200. And 2 people ended up being murdered. There were actually a bunch of people that died, and then 2 high-profile political figures were murdered. Then, and only then, did Pierre Trudeau used the War Measures Act. And when he did that, even that was considered controversial and considered by many to be inappropriate because it still didn't meet the standard for using it. But because we have this trailer with a peace sign on it and some bouncy castles and a bunch of transport trucks and Canadian citizens who've had a belly full of mandates and they're trying to get the government to listen to them, what do we get? We get Justin Trudeau throwing a hissy fit because he can't figure out how to get these guys to go home to homes they no longer have in many cases. So he throws a hissy fit and rolls out and implements the most the single piece of legislation that gives him the most possible power. It effectively gives him dictatorial powers. He can right now do pretty much anything he wants. He can target anyone he wants. He can use the military in a domestic capacity to go after anyone that he wants. He can go after any of these truckers, anyone that supported them. Now he can freeze bank accounts, even take cryptocurrency. He can do anything he wants. Literally. And he has, 6 days left to do it before it's reviewed in Parliament, because it takes effect immediately. This is dangerous, especially in the hands of a guy who wears children's socks, lacks maturity, has no way of relating to the average middle-class Canadian, has contempt for these Canadians who are parked outside his office tonight, won't even come out to talk to people because he acts like a spoiled little brat with a silver spoon in his mouth, could end this thing right now just by coming out to talk to them. But he won't do it because he acts like a spoiled little brat. I'm sorry, but not sorry. He's lost.
You don't apologize for that. That's exactly how he's behaving. So, I mean, to hell with it.
Remember I said to you yesterday, Brendan, a guy said to me early on, a few years ago when just after Trudeau came to power, and he said, Trudeau's a dictator. But like he really meant dictator. And I was like, well, you might not like the guy. He's a liberal. But come on, dictator, that's strong. But look where we are now.
We're a long ways from sunny ways. Long ways from sunny ways.
Yeah. Well, Canadians need to really take stock of what is going on. Really need to pay attention to this. This is very serious. And I don't think the media, the mainstream media, is giving this the weight that it needs to be given. I hope tonight that we're at least alerting people and making people think about this more. I hope Parliament gives this thorough review. I hope the Senate, if Parliament fails to deal with this in an appropriate way, I pray that the Senate gives this the sober second thought that the Senate is there to provide. They're a safety net in a situation like this, and I hope that it works, because I don't think this is appropriate at all.
I don't think Parliament will save us on this one. Maybe the Senate, but Parliament it'll be just like we saw the other day. The Conservative Party drafted a motion to have the federal government come up with a plan to lift mandates by a certain date, I think by like the end of February or something like that, and they voted it down. They don't even want to talk about a plan to end any of this. They don't even want to talk about a plan. So
that was the other thing, right? Yeah, that's right. They had that vote yesterday.
Yeah, and it was crushed. I called it on Sunday night before it happened. We ran all the numbers of the seats in the House, and I said, well, that's not going to work. It would take some kind of a miracle. It would have taken over at least about 20 Liberal members or 20 NDP members walking off and being like, no, we're going to vote to get a plan in place.
Mm-hmm. And Jennifer Jupiter says Sloly was helped to resign. And yeah, I would not be at all surprised. Maybe he might have been told to resign.
It came very much off that way at the beginning of the board meeting that they had today. It said, after much discussion, we have come to an agreeable resignation or something like that. So basically, they were talking back and forth about it for some time before he resigned. He was pushed to it. There's some weird allegations too, but either way, they weren't happy. He wasn't out there destroying bouncy castles.
And, Doug Ford in Ontario announcing that the vaccine passports will be gone as of March 1st, but it's a bittersweet thing, and I don't even know how much value it really has, because if we have the Emergencies Act in place and all of our rights are basically stripped away, what good is it if the vaccine passports are gone, but we have no bloody rights? I mean, Trudeau sat there yesterday and said, oh, but we won't be infringing on free speech. We won't be taking away people's rights to protest. But, they are limiting people's rights to protest. And that's what this whole thing is about. It's about targeting protesters that he's just characterizing as terrorists because he doesn't like what they're saying. So he doesn't want to listen to them and he doesn't want to talk to them. So I don't know, man. It's just, it's discouraging. And it's been a roller coaster ride from the beginning. One day it seems like progress is made. The next day it looks like you take 2 steps back. And they have been chipping away. The authorities have been chipping away at this entire movement over the past 3 weeks. But the fact that they've held on this long, too, has been something of a miracle, really, if you ask me. Sub-zero temperatures, sometimes getting down as low as minus 30 Celsius. Cops stealing their fuel, trying to freeze them out and starve them out, and yet they still hang on here tonight. You can see in this footage, they're still holding the line, right?
Absolutely. It is a miracle that it's lasted this long. And you know what? Don't feel bad, because we got to keep the hope, and the hope is the seeds of freedom have been sowed and they have been planted, and spring is just around the corner.
And Carla is just around the corner from Ottawa. She's on her way back there. So tomorrow we will have lots of additional footage from her showing you everything that goes on. And she will be interviewing people and doing her work on the ground. She's been doing a great job helping us provide a more thorough perspective for everyone on all of this, because the mainstream media has just not been doing it, man. But Carla, she's been awesome. And tomorrow, I think, could be a pivotal day, because now we're into, what is tomorrow? Is it, I've lost track of the days. Wednesday?
Tomorrow is, Wednesday.
Wednesday midweek.
The 16th. And by the way, the honking resumes on the 17th, that's day 10 from the injunction. The injunction was put on the 7th.
So we'll see if they get an extension on that injunction.
Could be.
We'll have to see. And we'll see what happens tomorrow, because as we were saying earlier, I would think the cops are under a lot of pressure to get in there and shut this thing down before next weekend, because you can bet your boots that a lot of people will be coming back to the Capitol next weekend to support this protest, just as we've seen over the past 3 weeks. This would be weekend number 4 if they can hold on that long, and they just need to really get through tomorrow and Thursday, and the crowd will start to build again, and the cops don't want to have to deal with a big crowd if they're going in there to break this thing up. So they'll look for an opportunity, I think, when the crowd is at its lowest point. They've been chipping away at the holding yards, the staging areas, like that Coventry Garden, I think they called it. Camp Coventry, they called it Camp Coventry, where they had fuel stored for the truckers, and even spas or saunas, I guess, were set up there. and everything. They had a small community of sorts, a camp for the truckers there, with hundreds and thousands of trucks spread all over the city. Confederation Park, they've cleared all of that stuff out over time. And they've chipped away at this entire thing. And there are still other trucks spread around the city. They still have a large presence, but it has been shrinking a little bit each week. And then on the weekends, it explodes again with all of these people coming in to support what's going on. So what do you think, Brendan? What's your prediction? Do you think the cops will move in a more aggressive way in the next day or two?
I think that they're going to try something. I don't know what. It could be that they're unsuccessful too, because you have to remember, looking at Coutts border, they did try to strike in and pull people out of there, and they were unsuccessful. And we've kind of seen a little bit of that in Ottawa, but not as heavy as what they tried there. So it could be the police go in, they try something, and they end up having to walk back.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a real possibility here, what's going to go down with it. When they're going to try that, you're right, it's going to be before the weekend. We're going to have to see. I'm not too sure, but they're not going to want a big party down there. And we definitely don't need to see the chair of the board of Ottawa Police down there popping bouncy castles. That would probably not be a good image for.
I could also tell you this, and this people might find interesting. We have some trolls who've been following our channels, social media platforms, and they've been attacking us. They've been attacking our websites, trying to hack into things, and attacking our payment platform. Not getting in, of course, not doing us any damage, but I can see the activity. And you think we're not at war? That's the cyber war that's being waged even on us, as we just try to bring you a different perspective and some truth from the scene, live, uncensored, unedited, and it's underway again tonight. So thank you, Greg, for all of your BS and your attempt to do serious damage to us. So why don't you go yourself, because it's not going to work. I see what you're doing, and it's not working. So just give it up, pal.
Go get a hobby.
Yeah,
I hear wood burning is nice and relaxing. You could chill out.
Oh, the other thing. Oh, yeah. You know what, Greg? I know who you are, because I'm not stupid, and I know who you are. I know who you are, Greg. So stop.
We'll call your mother on you.
No, I'll do more than that. I know who you are.
Well, we've had a pretty exciting evening now. We are at over 3 hours here now.
Yep.
I think it's a good time to wrap it up.
Yes, sir.
Brendan Kennedy with the Flow of Discourse podcast. Please like and subscribe our videos and join our channel. We'd love to have you. Rick, if you want to bring the banner up one more time, we'll give a ring-a-ding-do on that. If you wish to support what we do and to help us support Carla out in Ottawa, as she is one of our reporters on the ground, you could donate at freedomreporters.com. And your support is greatly appreciated. And to those who have already supported us, we greatly appreciate that too. And thank you from the bottom of our hearts on that. It's been a great evening, and thanks for coming on. And I absolutely love coming out here and talking about these things with you.
And I'm Rick Walker with Maverick Multimedia, thanking you all for joining us tonight, and for all of those of you who have donated. We appreciate that very much as well. It's especially going to help Carla, who is incurring huge expenses up there in Ottawa, gathering footage for us and talking to people and giving us some proper perspective, true perspective from the ground. So with that being said, we will be back tomorrow night with more live coverage of Convoy, Freedom Convoy 2022, cruising to the Capitol. And we look forward to that. And with that, I'm Rick Walker signing off. Catch you all on the flip side.